delicate, gentle, precise. Calm down. Why are you trying so hard? Isn't this too much for you? Aren't you scared? Don't play, don't compete, stop complaining. Whatever you do, it'll never be enough. Greatness comes from within. Just wait and see.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Game Changers. We are one step closer to crowning the best team in our region. It is lower bracket finals. I'm your host Insu and I'm here joined by Cougar and Anne. You guys, we've only got 3 teams left in this competition, and to think that Cougar, a new champion, could potentially be born depending on what happens today and tomorrow is pretty exciting.
It's actually the most exciting thing. I'm very happy to be back. I think that the last time that you and I were doing Game Changers was like half a year ago already. So I'm very happy to be back, seeing some new faces and some new contenders to actually get those titles.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing, right? Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I was going to gas up your outfit, Anne, but, you know, carry on.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I was going to say, it's really exciting to have one team, obviously, join that other team, join BBL Queens into the grand final, and one team we're saying bye to, so it feels like a very split up day today with a lot of happiness, but also quite some sadness today.
Well, after everything that I went through yesterday with BBL, I'm really hoping that I don't get my heart broken tomorrow. But let's take a look at the bracket here, as you guys both said, that we could potentially have a new champion that's never lifted a trophy in our region before, or maybe it is the return of G2 Gozen back to the top as well. But either way that we see it, I think probably the most surprising thing, Cougar, is that Guild, they didn't make it this far. They will not be here to defend their title.
Yeah, exactly. We've seen a couple of changes in Guild now that Roxy is in G2. And this year, I feel like things are a little bit unfinished. I feel like if we maybe give them a little bit more time, and during the year, we will see a different phase of Guild. But last time, they had to say goodbye to the competition. And it was Acend in this miraculous round that they're going through that lower bracket.
Yeah, Acend kind of turning into those Grim Reapers of that lower bracket, knocking on everyone's door, beating out all those teams out of the competition. As you mentioned, indeed, Guild, the last winners, are unable to defend their own title. Luckily, you know, as Guild, they still have that one little piece as Roxy in Roxy to defend a potential title with G2 this time around. Yeah, a good run from Acend in the lower bracket, but a tough match against G2 for them today.
Yeah, and I think there are still things that they needed to do and they needed to improve in the things that we saw. And I'm talking about Acend here. I feel like the interest and the plan is definitely there, but it needs some mastering.
Yeah, and I like the point that you made, Anne, of Roxy being able to take on Fly the Flag as well, as you guys can see her shortly in some G2 highlights as well. For G2, they're coming into this, and on the back of a loss, unlike Acend, who are kind of riding that momentum in the lower bracket.
Yeah, exactly. As you mentioned, Acend so far unbeaten in their groups themselves. They took that first loss in the brackets, went down to the lower bracket. And G2 have kind of found their arch nemesis against BBL Queens, facing 2 losses against them. I think in that previous matchup in particular, it was Mary that really shut down the entry, the main character on the side of BBL Queens. On those first 2 maps specifically, they worked really well on shutting down Alkia. But on that last map, Alkia was just unstoppable. She took down the members of G2 in such good fashion. G2 winning out that first map, but unfortunately not enough for them to, you know, get a good ticket into the grand final, so they'll have to try again today.
Yeah, exactly. Not only that, because we are seeing a G2 that for a very long time, we haven't seen them, you know, fearing an opponent the way that they're fearing BBL, because this was actually a rematch. And it was so exciting to see BBL Queens actually play that Acend again and redo their homework and actually manage to pull out some very impressive attack rounds.
I mean, G2, they do have a chance today, but let me explain to you guys what's at stake, and not permutations, luckily, Cougar, before you get too excited. But last year we had the same system where teams could collect points as the year goes. And of course, for the last competition of this year, the team that wins will get a direct qualification to the Game Changers World Champions. And last year, Cougar, we saw G2 and Guild basically go 1 and 2 every tournament, so it was a pretty easy kind of 1 and 2 going into that competition. But I do think we have to remind everyone that getting as many points as you can now is so important.
Yes, exactly. Because, you know, maybe getting that first is just 30 points. It might seem like so little, but knowing and seeing as we're seeing these teams rising up and actually farming those points, maybe the competition this year is going to be very, very tied up. And remember that last year we also had Guild getting that last title. They were, you know, probably going to be them too anyway. But I feel like the usual suspects for this year, they look a little different. And I think that by the third Game Changers, things are going to take some weird turns.
It does look like that. I mean, if you have that stable base of points in the beginning, you can then build on into those next stages if you keep on performing well, which puts you in a lot less stress going into that final stage, the final series of this matchup later into the year. Collecting those points will put you into a good perspective. There is very fierce competition, as we already mentioned. There's different teams at the top right now, so it could be anyone's game, really.
Yeah, and you definitely don't want it to come down to, 5 points towards the end that could have made the difference between you going to Brazil or not to going. Now,
permutations.
Yeah, we have a lot of fans here at VCT Game Changers, and I'm not surprised. So let's take a quick look from some kind words from the one and only Mixwell. Check this out.
I think Game Changers is insane. And the viewership is also really good as well. I believe that it gives a lot of opportunities, and there's a lot of stars, girls that play super well, and that proves us every day that the gender doesn't matter in esports. So it's super special. Honestly, I know the G2 team because I was in G2 before, and I know them personally. So I cheer for them. For Mimi especially, and I've seen their games. I believe they're in the lower bracket final. I don't know if they played it already, but I think they are there, and even though they lost one game, I still believe that they will win the tournament, so good luck, Mimi.
You can take the player out of G2, but you can't take G2 out of the player, you guys. But Mixwell being a Mimi simp, I feel like is a common W from him, and because let's be honest, who isn't?
I mean, yeah, we could all be, right? Having a very stable performance into this series, into all the games that she has played, really constantly putting up numbers on the board, being flexible in the Asians that she'll play as well. That's someone you'd like to have in any team, really, and will really help you towards winning games.
Yeah, exactly. I remember that last year by this, I would say, what are we, May, June? All that we talked about was Mimi. She was getting the MVP. She was a staple of the team. Is because of something you mentioned, and is that flexibility, but actually being able to perform, to put in the numbers, and actually always coming off as a surprise for their opponents.
Yeah, it's not just Mimi, though. Let's talk about G2 a little bit, because out of all the surprises we can get, somehow G2, they are still in it. They still have a chance to be able to win back the title that Guild took from them. And also, I want to remind you guys, Cougar, G2, despite, losing sometimes in the past, they are always usually making it at least to the grand finals.
Yes, exactly. For them, this is the usual thing to happen at the end of every series. For Acend, on the other hand, this is the first time that they're going to be playing a best of 5. Like, the nerves that probably went into the first time that they played against G2 are going to be even bigger if they think about what it's at stake, because the first time that they played, they knew that they had this lower bracket that they could go through, but now it's do or die.
They have so much experience in those best of 5s indeed as well. The best of 3 they lost was last week for G2. Then before that, it ranges all the way back until the end of 2021. On the side of Acend, though, they don't have that much, maybe those best of 5 experience. As Jade mentioned before in interviews, they never really made it to this point where they play those best of 5 series. So for them, this is maybe a bit of new territory.
I do want to remind you guys, though, the last time we saw G2 play a best of 5, we had a reverse sweep, we had Yoru and Reina. So I don't know if we're going to get that today, but I'm kind of excited. I know Giuliano is no longer in this lineup, but Cougar, surely the other girls, they could bring us something spicy.
Yeah, exactly. I think that they for sure can do it. If we take a look at this, the usual suspects in G2 are Petra, Mimi, Mary, probably the most spoken about player from Game Changers for last year, that young prodigy that was able to put in the numbers in the chamber meta. It was all about her. But knowing also the addition of Glance and now having Roxy, I would say that Roxy is the only one that so far has emerged as well as the others, and I'm still waiting to see a little bit more coming from her.
We're seeing it here in the entry kill feed as well. Mary constantly shutting down the entry on the side of BBL in that game. Petra also someone that you can really rely on when it comes to those backsteps, when it comes to controlling that and, you know, pushing those players that you're pushing in the side from behind, really getting that control back and, you know, pushing when someone isn't really looking at you. Just a very good lineup on the side of G2.
My question is this lineup as good as the world champion G2 we got? Cougar, do you expect them to be breezing through this year?
I think that it says a lot and it matters a lot, the fact that Giuliano is not here. I'm not saying that G2 cannot get over it, but I think it's understandable. Also, I believe that in the same way that has stopped them from actually improving, the rest of the teams have used all that time to get in better. And I feel like the gap that previous years separated the bottom teams from the teams on top has gotten way, way worse.
I mean, having said that though, Acend, I feel like they're an exciting new challenger here. Whether they can take down G2 this time around, I'm not quite sure. But and outside of G2, Acend, they haven't really lost to anyone else.
No, exactly. Yeah, as I mentioned, G2 really being the arch nemesis. They've lost to this team, and yeah, they had, apart from that, a very, very good run. They made some recent changes where Schnell and Litio joined the team last March. They have this new coach, Acend, that's been helping them a lot with playing more as a team, having that confidence as well. Jade mentioned it in an interview in the last game that they played. We have these struts where we just push, we trust in each other, we go for this aggression, and it just seems to be working out so well for them.
I'm going to take out, and it has nothing to do with the fact that he's Spanish, but last year we saw a great improvement from Gildex when joined the team, and I think that Asuka has done the same for this girls. The fact that he has, you know, swapped the structure and actually reorganized those roles, the way that Amy is now away from the controller and onto the Sentinel, the freedom that it gives these brilliant players that we have been highlighting through the entirety of the group stage. I think that what happened against G2 was, I want to think it is an isolated event, the fact that they lost so hard on the first map, because it was the first match that they played on playoffs. It was different from that group stage. And obviously, they were going up against G2. It's not that simple. It's not that easy. And I think it can get to your head.
Yeah, and one player we can really look at in this roster is Amy. I think if you were to look at her ACS or her rating, she's always putting up positive numbers. She's always getting some good kills in for her team. Their new entry, Schnell, she hasn't always had the greatest time on entry, but luckily you have those other players in the team that you can really rely on. For me, for Acend, it kind of feels like there isn't just that one player, that one duelist, for example, that really shows up, really carries the entire team on their back. No, this roster can have everyone step up, this roster can have everyone have similar performances, and that, in my opinion, is a very, very stable win factor.
Well, the vibe, Bear, I got from you is that you feel like G2 aren't as strong as they were as when they won the title last year, but Acend are stronger than they were last year, right?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, for sure. 100%. I think that G2 need to go back and actually redo some things because they're struggling in aspects like it's like the best of G2 is really good, but the mid G2 has gone down on the level that they were showing last year.
They love to prove you wrong though, Bear. So we'll see what happens.
Oh yeah, they do.
But Anne, let's take a look at some of the more intricacies, you know, some of the tendencies between both teams that you were able to find from their last game.
Yeah, exactly. I went back all the way into the VODs and I have an example from the last time that these two teams played against each other. In very specific, the post plans of G2 and them also being really, really good. Now on this map for Bind, we're looking at a G2 attack round where they're using Harbor to set up a cove on side. They're dividing the side as well to push the Acend players back to not really give them any vision onto what G2 is doing. Now if we roll the clip, we can see that the spike is being planted in the cove. G2 are setting themselves up very well for the round. And this this round describes a few of the trends that I've seen in this game between G2 and Acend. Acend will get the entry with the paint shells, a double beautiful entry on 2 players, and they seem so worried about Mary in Labs. But on the other hand, for Acend, you see Amy doing Amy things. She is on that backstab, she is on that lurk, trying to push Mimi and get her out of focus. Mimi is very aware of this happening. She keeps on shifting focus, will eventually deal with Amy pushing from behind. And then these players are so worried still about Mary in Labs that this opens up an opportunity for Petra to go for the backstab. They can clear out a 2v4, which Acend once had a 5v3, then a 4v2, and then Petra wastes enough time to make Jade unable to go for the counter diffusers, defuse the spike. This is how G2 play out these post plans very well, despite being in a man deficit.
I love the fact also that I think that it's Petra is always the smartest player, at least for me. When I take a look at G2, she always knows how to act in this situation.
Yeah, looking at this heat map as well, this is the second map, this is Lotus. You can see that G2 had 8 plans. They prefer to either go A or go C, not necessarily on B. And Acend, they really don't mind. They can go A, they can go C, they can go B in any random order really, and any random amount it seems as well. But then as you can see on the top, G2 had 8 post plans. 8 plans, 7 successful post plans. Acend had 11 plans, but they also had 7 successful post plans. So if you were to put that in percentages, that means that G2 are doing significantly better on their post plans.
Yeah, both of these teams, they know each other very well. Sorry, Kakuka, I don't know if I interrupted you there.
Okay. I was just going to say that definitely we can see the priorities of the teams and actually the speed in which they want to work. As so many teams prioritize clearing up and having some map control before getting onto that punt, and some other teams will directly go into a very strong execute with a lot of utility, getting the plant, and then playing for the post plant.
Yeah, and I will also say that we can't underestimate some of G2's most intricate and big brain strat, you know. It must have been a lot for them to come up with a Mary Go Kill. Let's take a look at this. The leaderboard, in fact, of playoffs right now, according to ACS, Mary is sitting pretty comfortably up there on top, but by a long way as well. It's not even close.
I'm not surprised. I think it's a performance that somehow it is expected of her, and she always delivers. I think that the pressure for her doesn't really exist. We were seeing it in the highlights before, and we can see it again. We know that she was brilliant when she was on the chamber. Now she has extra mobility, extra support from the players, because really, when you're playing with that chamber, in many occasions, you are going to be playing on your own. It's literally you against the world, and just denying that trade that could not be possible. With the Jet, the rest of the team has to be supporting you. It's not only you against the world. There's some moments where, you know, definitely that can be the case, but I feel like Mary is just thriving in this duelist.
Exactly, yeah, and this clip as well, I find it so pretty how she uses all the abilities to make sure she gets out of those situations as well, right? She can get the entry, and then you can either be traded, but you can also get the entry and survive, and then potentially force more map control even in your own favor. A high clutch percentage as well, and that first plot percentage too. She really is that duelist. She will be active in those entry engagements and very likely also be successful.
Yeah, this is kind of obscene. Her stats are ridiculous right now, but
this is Mary.
What? She needs to add Yoru and Reina into her arsenal. She needs to do Giuliano proud, Kakuka. I want to see it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would love to see it, but I think that in the moment that G2 is right now, as I said, I think that they have to put some work into it. I think like the moment to relax was a little bit more of last year. This year they need to put in the hours and put in the time. I think that for the sake of them having it easy, they need to prioritize other things before going into Mary doing crazy things too. I know you want to see it, but
you're telling me the Yoru and Reina wasn't easy. Are you trying to tell me that?
It's not as easy. It's not as easy because you need to get the rest of the team to play with you. I mean, the Reina, no, because you can just play it as a strongholder and just make Lothar cry. But the Yoru really needs a lot of things, and also it needs the server time to actually get Mary to be successful.
Yeah, and I know you were very bat-chesting for Amy as well on the side of Acend. If we take a look at the stats of her and Roxy, they play very similar agents, very similar role. Of course, Amy had a role change going into this, and I did not expect her to be doing this well already.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, especially if you look at this head-to-head, I think the stats are very much leaning in the favor of Amy as well. Playing on those similar agents, playing that similar role, really. Amy doing very well, but I think this is kind of skewed as well, right? Amy maybe taking taking up a bit of the entry role or assisting in towards that on the side of Acend. Whereas if you have for G2, there are these players that will pick up this role, and Roxy is really there playing those controller, playing those central operators sometimes, or agents sometimes, where she can assist that team. But if you look at a head-to-head, specifically against these players, then EMEA is leading this one for sure.
I think that we also need to highlight that for Amy, having that role change is probably the best thing that could happen to her, because now she doesn't have to be looking at the map, trying to include those smokes and actually play for the team. She has one task and one task only, by being the sentinel, slowing down, gathering the information, being on the back, and focusing on your own performance. The information that you gather is passive. You don't have to actually go and get it. It's your utility that is going to give it to you. So it's much, much easier to focus on what she does brilliantly, which is shoot bullets.
Now, I've known Amy for a very, very long time, and I wanna leak something for you guys. I've obtained permission for this. Obviously, Bear, you were there as well. We were chatting to Safe yesterday when Liquid were preparing for their game. Now,
I was pretending that I didn't know.
yeah. Now, Amy, Safe, and Leo from Fnatic, they 5-stack a lot. They play a lot together. And Safe was even saying, you know, when I spectate Amy, when I watch her play officials, sometimes I see a little bit of me and a little bit of Leo in there. Now, if you can be a player that combines Leo and Safe, I feel like that's like the biggest recipe for success, right?
I mean, yeah, it cannot get easier than that. I hope that then in the same way that they stack, they do some VOD reviews as well. So Amy literally can get to the peak of her performance by the end of this.
I think she's already better than Leo and Safe, and that's just what I think. But they played against each other already, Acend and G2. And if we take a look at what happened last time, I think it doesn't bode super well if you are an Acend fan coming into this.
No, I mean, if you look at the map interface, for example, if you think back about that, right, it was Acend picking out Bind, thinking, oh, we have a good idea, and then they only were able to win 2 rounds on their own map pick. G2 being really dominant in that it, as I mentioned, it looked like Acend were able to get entries quite often, but then G2 were really good in their post plans. They were really good at winning out clutching situations, really having those strong and independent players on the side of G2 stand up.
I think that probably what Acend was looking to do is kind of surprise G2 with that Bind pick, because during the group phase they have been banning between Fracture and Bind, still not actually, you know, deciding on what is the map that they did not want to play, and G2 surprised them with a new composition that included the Harbor, that changed the plan completely for them. So I think that caught them a little bit off guard. I don't know if we're going to see the same maps, but for Acend, they've been very clear in that they do not play Pearl, they do not want to see it, and that's the only constant that I see repeating today.
Yeah, and also it being a best of 5, I wonder if either teams are going to deviate a little bit here and there. With that said, let's take a look at the map vetos and see which maps we're going to be playing today. I also don't think we're going to see Fracture somehow. We have a tiny bit of a delay on our end, so apologies for some of the late reactions we could have. Yeah. There we go.
I mean, you mentioned it, right?
It says that...
Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's... Yeah, because it says that G2 has 2 bans. I don't think that's I think that's a mistake on our end. I believe that the second one is going to be for Acend. Otherwise, maybe G2... You know, they feel like doing them a favor, and we're going to see that Bind. G2 had a great time there. Why not play it again? Acend is going to go for Split. Okay.
I'm surprised about this. I'm very surprised. There's not much footage of them on Split, so maybe it could be a good thing that G2 can be a little bit less prepared.
Yeah, we saw
exactly.
G2 have like lineups and everything on these specific positions of their enemies before, right? There's a lot of things they can do with prep work. Acend have only played it once, and they've won it against Cameron Comp, so it went to overtime. A very close matchup it was as well. For them to pick it out, I think there's maps that Acend play more and favor more in a best of 5 situation to potentially have these maps earlier on to get yourself a bit of an advantage and not have to rely on a full reverse sweep, for example.
Oh, they get the Haven as well.
Yeah, I was going to say that the Holy Trinity is going to happen no matter what. Bind, Haven, and Split. Personally, maybe I would have liked Acend going with something like Haven for their map pick, but I think I'm happy with this. The bans are pretty much what we expected.
I'm feeling a little bit more G2 side here. I mean, it's easy, right? It's easy to feel more G2 sided just because even historically, they don't lose maps that often. But I'm hoping for all 5 maps. Why not? I feel like we deserve it with both of these teams. But let's talk about Bind a little bit more because Cougar, I know there's a particular round that you wanted to show. I think for the side of G2.
Yes, exactly. I think it's very important to understand how they were doing things because they were playing a very particular comp. So I chose a round so we can see how they structured this defense. You see that Mimi has used that wall at the on B long to grant that orb that also gives Roxy her ultimate. This is something that they were repeating a lot. Early wall, grant the orb, and we have that control time and time again. The flashes are not going to do anything. Nothing that the Ascend's aggression can move on to that. She moves then onto Hookah to keep preventing the pushes while 3 other players are waiting on A. The moment that she gets the kill, they reposition, they understand that they need to move, that they need to avoid that utility and respond with their own. Now, the mistake from Acend comes from actually not waiting the few seconds that they had until that wall was going to disappear and investing utility into literally nothing, because the moment that they started doing that, the rotation from G2 was already coming. Glance was already coming onto side. We're gonna see her use their utility, Mimi getting the first kills, and actually they're working against themselves because by using so much on getting no space and no pressure onto B-Long, the moment of the execute is completely empty of utility, nothing that they can follow on with, nothing that they can surprise G2 with.
Yeah, and we see as well with the comp lineup, right? You see the Harbor High Tide being used, the Sage Wall being used, also on attack, despite G2 not having that many attacking rounds, but really to reconstruct the site, to block the vision for the enemies, to create some blockages as well, where they have side executes, and they don't allow the Ascend players to come back to side in time, with the High Tide being there, with the Sage Wall being there. Just a beautiful lineup, and I hope we get to see it again today, but we'll see.
Give me all the wars, you know, stack all of the wars on top of each other. That's what I want to see. I think Agent Select is ready. I'm not sure. If it is, let's go into it. If it's not, my apologies. But I mean, they played this map already.
I think we had the comps from, that's what I think.
Oh, from previous time. Yes, we do. Okay, ignore me. This is the comp that they played the last time they faced each other.
Yes.
Again, wasn't that super long ago? And are you guys anticipating any changes going into this?
Probably on the side of Ascend, they should expect that this is the composition that G2 is going to play. They should have watched that VOD and actually interpret and analyze the mistakes that I and we have been highlighting. The compositions are different, especially on the Harbor and having that Sentinel on Mimi. We have seen many teams using different Sentinels, and I know that Sage somehow does not fit into the description that we usually have of a Sentinel, but I think that on Bind, she is the exception because she does slow down a lot, and you can use her utility in many different ways to your advantage and actually as a proper Sentinel. So the way that she was playing it, most likely on B, like swapping around all the time, is not the typical Sage that you're just gonna find playing on A, maybe onto showers. No, she's going to swap things up and is going to make her unpredictable. So it's kind of predict the unpredictable for Ascend here.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the Sage Wall, and A, you see it quite often. I would like to see on the side of Ascend as well, where they can have these scenarios where they can create some safety for themselves to, as we saw G2, for example, do as well with the High Tide, with the Cove onto the side, creating those safe spots for themselves where they then kind of distract the opposing side with and eventually can go for a backstab, because we do know Amy likes to lurk and she can be really good at that. So if they create these safe spots and then have the opportunity for Amy to backstab the players on the side of G2, that would be really good.
I will also say, though, the Viper Harbor, it is very counterable. We've seen teams do it over and over again, Cougar. So hopefully now they've learned their lesson. They played against this comp already, so they could do something against it this time around. Agent Select, I believe, is ready. So we can have a look now and see if Glance is indeed going to be picking up that Harbor. I would like to... Well, actually, that's a lie. I don't want to see it. I'm not...
You don't?
I'm not
Why
the biggest
not?
fan. Unless it's double initiator, double controller on this map, I'm not the biggest fan of running the double controller.
I think that
with
Mimi was giving it a
Harbor.
twist. No?
It's a twist that I don't like.
Okay.
There we go.
Well,
there we go.
Glance is gonna go
Thanks,
on
Glance.
the harbor, so I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to live with that. Actually, I believe that there are no changes here. Also, one of the things that Glance is going to be able, and Mimi as well, to do against Acend is having that priority on Snell and actually not making her have that much impact. The good thing is that we were mentioning we did not see a lot of Ascend's defense. This time around, they're going to be starting on the defense. We saw a bit of that Z's and Nade combo and with the paint shells. I think that is they have a lot prepared on that side. I think that if they're off to a good start, the nerves are, you know, not going to be a big part.
Well, thank you very much, you two. I can't wait to be watching this game, and it's time for me to throw this over to your casters today. It's Zach and Andy. Ender.
You know
You're
what? We'll
Andy
take
now. I'm
it.
sorry.
Andy is totally acceptable. Look, we have got an amazing matchup on the docket for today. I'm Ender here with Zach. And Zach, we are starting it off with a rematch of these two teams on Bind here.
Yeah, I think last time around on Bind, it wasn't a very nice performance for Acend. They did end up losing 2-13 to G2. And I think the biggest problem there was the only 2 rounds they won was off of Amy being able to pop off. And they can't depend on those kind of isolated moments, right? It's going to have to be the entire team sticking together. We did see some good utility combinations coming out of Schnell and Jade, but there has to be more of that throughout the game. And I really hope Acend, they've done their homework.
Yeah, I do too. I do think starting or forcing G2 to start on the attack this time might even things up, at least in that first half, but we're going to have to see how well they can battle back over an extended full 5-game series. Acend, no real experience in the BO5s. G2 have been here before. It is the Game Changers world champions G2 now fighting through the lower bracket to make it to yet another final. In their way is Acend, who have been on a meteoric rise ever since acquiring Lateu and Schnell just 2 months ago. It is time to get into game. Let's play.
Whoa.
Oh.
I, for one, am absolutely pumped to see what these teams have in store for us today. The last time these two teams faced off, it was a 2-0 in favor of G2 Gozen, and G2 won on Bind 13-2. That said, I think it's going to be a lot more of a challenge for them to start things off on the attacking side this time around.
Blinded.
And already we're seeing them with a pretty hefty setup leaning towards that B-long area.
Yeah, they haven't pushed up. They haven't taken up too much space off the back of it. They did use one of those flashes to see if there was going to be an early push coming out of Acend, but it's going to be patient plays on both the sides. The Trailblazer invested by Petra to perhaps make sure that nobody's sneaking up towards that A short area. But again, G2, they're just taking it super slow here as they walk towards B long.
Yeah, they definitely can. It'll just be HTM playing actually with a Sheriff on pistol round, so no double flashes there. That'll spot out towards long. We'll see if she can find a early pick with that one when they move along, but as the harbor wall comes on through, Mary is just perfection. Moving into the site, that's 2 kills and just belongs to G2.
And that's the advantage of having the Sky as well, right? You can get your heal back in. Mary's going to be in full fighting shape after getting those 2 openers. And now it's going to be a very awkward retake for Acend. At least they have control of this hookah area. Haunt online as well for Jade, but she's going to have to wait for the rest of the team to come into play before she can really put it through. Utility combos coming in and Glance that first point of contact. Not able to get the kill. Unfortunately, at Acend, they managed to find 2 kills before things go down too far. Petra on the reload though, and Mimi with her is able to just find those 2 final kills. And G2, they take that pistol. This just seems like a repeat of history at this point.
Yeah, I mean, look, that was really nice. Obviously, the entry into site, Mary just, cleans up 2 players very easily. But then, because they had so much time, committing to that reflank, so even though I think it was Jade that had been able to work into hookah, there are 2 players coming in behind her, then looking down into that site as well, while Acend retaking down in numbers pretty heftily there. It was a very nice move out of G2, and now G2 going for that classic FPX style buy here with 3 rifles, one going over into the hands of Glance, and a Sheriff they also recovered off of the body of HTM is going to allow them to actually get into showers really quickly off the double satchel. Mary playing for early orbs here, I would like, although I like it even better giving the ult over to Glance. The Harbor ultimate is like the most slept on ult in the game, I think. Not only is it a huge like sight hitting ultimate, it gives you information of where the enemy is going to be off of those puddles, levels, as well as the concuss effect coming in too. So getting that online very early for round 3 or 4 could swing him out.
Look at this, Mary still holding down the showers angle, gets that first kill. It was a 3-player push, and after Latu goes down, the rest of us are like, no, we want nothing to do with Mary and showers. You can have that area of the map, it's okay. And working off of that, the rest of the G2, they make their way onto the side instead. A beautiful shot from Schnell, though, with the Sheriff, able to find that kill onto Mary. So it's going to be a 1-for-1 trade as that spike goes down. Mimi strikes back. Once again, G2 on these re-lurks through showers or hookah. They're able to find so much value, and now these last 2 players for Acend, only classics in hand. It's less a question of whether they can actually convert this round. It's more of like, how much damage can we do? Can we actually take some of these rifles out of the hands of these G2 players? And so far, it just seems to be an almost impossible task, I gotta say.
I mean, they'd have to get minimum 2 kills in order to make that happen, because just 1 kill, it's a easily recoverable rifle in that situation. So G2 going to make easy work, and just sort of noting how G2 attacked into that site, whether, you know, is the early presence, the double satcheling into showers, where Mary was able to get a kill, and then a very deep harbor wall that blocked off U-Haul, but left the angles deep in the back of site open. That's where Mimi was then fighting out of showers, just taking those deep lines. But all things considered, now that, you know, rifles are going to come online here for Acend, G2's comp has very little forcing utility, like abilities that enable Mary to make plays. You think about it, because they're playing double smokes and a Sage, they have a lot of things to cut off lines of sight, but it's really just Petra that can set up, you know, a flash to allow Mary to scale on forward. So every time she's flashing, you're going to see Mary, as she is here, satcheling in, trying to play off of that with the cascade there too, just to make sure they can stack up these orbs. They're really committing into showers heavily round after round.
Yeah, and that's G2, right? They like to play for the control of the entire map, so it's like their backup plan, so as to speak, if things don't go their way. Now, though, it's going to be the full buy kicking in for Acend. I could call this a bonus for G2, but with the rifles on board for every single player, I don't think that's no longer going to be the case. And now that now off the Trailblazer, they know that U-Haul is relatively an area that they can take on the map, and they make their way forward, push, and Schnell, that anchor, that point of contact, unfortunately, not able to connect the kill, and Roxy finds first blood.
Saw a little bit of awkward jump button there that might have cost Schnell the chance in the fight. Jade is quick to recover in lamps, with the rest of the team retaking back through site. There's just so much stall here in terms of the harbor wall, the save wall. They got to cut through to a fight in lamps again as Petra swings in with the teammate right behind her, and Acend kind of locked out of this area now.
Yeah, Amy, though, able to find 2 kills. Insane work coming out of her. Mary strikes back. Latu, though, will be able to win out both fights towards showers, and Acend with 2 players alive, they're able to get that retake coming into order, and this is already a significant improvement from the Acend we saw last time, because, you know, they didn't win a single round on defense.
Nope, Lateo and Jay just clutched up there. Now, to their credit, they only played 3 rounds on defense, and after losing pistol, they had to force 2 rounds in a row. So we've actually never seen them play like a real rifle round on defense versus G2. And this is why I think this map is going to end up being far closer for Acend. Now, they're going to have to win a lot of rounds on defense. Let's just preface that and say, like, they're looking to at least go positive, but probably needing 8+ rounds on defense unless they made big changes off of their loss previously to G2. But again, because G2 lacks so much forcing utility, what's going to end up happening is this side of the map is going to come down so much to who's taking opening fights that aren't, you know, benefited by utility, and how good is the spacing, how good is the trading by the team. When Acend come around the corner, if Schnell falls there's a player right behind to try and fire back, and I'm going to be paying very clear attention to how Acend are spacing, whether it's on defensive moves like that, and especially when they play into the retakes. And so far, it's been solid.
Talking about solid, that was a really well-orchestrated push coming out towards short there to be able to catch Roxy off guard. They expect that setup coming out of G2, the snakebite towards the A site, and perhaps preempting that, they decide to go forward. And now that G2, they've kind of lost Roxy here. They no longer have that lurk potential coming in. They're just regrouping here, going for that B hit instead. But Acend, they have the read because they already have 3 players stacked up on the site, 1 towards the back, 2 towards long, and HGM with that early information, with the help of that Trailblazer, will again buy so much more time here for the side of Acend.
Yeah, seeing 3 players down long. Petra peeking out from hookah, though, could be absolutely massive. She finds that first kill, and now the harbor wall has isolated off this player in backside. It's just Lateo, and Mary coming around the corner is able to find that kill. All of a sudden, G2 have control over the site. They have numbers. They just had a perfect attack there. They didn't lose a single player in the site hit.
Yeah, that harbor, like you talked about, Ender, just coming in clutch there, not only being able to concuss them, but also pushing them off the angles they were holding. So a lot of really good work being done there. Schnell and Amy, the last 2 players who who have to make this retake somehow work out. Schnell finds the first, but Mimi there for the trade. And now Amy, we've seen her do the impossible before, but not this time, as Glance just swings out, peeks through the wiper wall, and gets that final kill. G2, they find 3 here, and now Acend, their economy, it's going to be in a bit of a dire spot.
Yeah, it's not going to be fun for them. I think 2 players going to be able to afford rifles here, and in the past, Amy has just always loved going for the Guardian. Jade as well, when she has money on these force buys, or half buys, I suppose, from Acend. And those are sort of the 2 players that I have my eyes on for Acend to sort of pull back in eco rounds, and just in general to always have high impact. I think one of the weaknesses of Acend has been Schnell has been a little bit inconsistent, I would say. You know, we see on the attacking side of things, often she's the first one in, and not always being able to find that opening pick has cost Acend, especially in their matches against G2 previously. So if she's playing a good game, all of a sudden I have far more faith, and Amy, again, in these half-buy rounds, will always give Acend a chance.
Yeah, unfortunately, Schnell, though, with the Guardian, not quite able to connect the shot onto Mary, and now with the Showstopper, it's going to be Mary satcheling into sight, not quite able to find anything, as Amy, with the push out into Hookah, is able to find that second kill as well, staying alive as that Showstopper unfortunately misses, and now Mary trying to hold down this power position, does it with style as she gets the light up, in fact, and now once again, G2, they have the numbers advantage, they have the weapons advantage, and they have the spike down, so for Jade and Latu, it's going to be a very difficult retake. They do have that Cosmic Divide, but I doubt we're going to be seeing that invested at all.
It'll all come down to Lateu's lurk outside in sand here, but Mary's able to catch her on a timing. Oh, a little bit labored on the spray there from Mary, but a chance to turn this into an ace if she gets the timing. And frankly, Jade worrying about players from too many angles, it's really impossible for her to play out this round. Oh, unless she finds that kill. Hold on. Still no time, but man, Jade really crisp with those shots.
That's a 3K. Not the round for Acend, but considering that was a bit of an eco round, a half buy coming in, they only had invested in a Guardian and a Bulldog, still going to be a decent bit of damage done. And in the process, they also charge up some of those ultimates that they've kind of been waiting to get online. For G2 themselves, they invested, I believe, the Harbor ult in that last round, and now it's going to be the Showstopper. But
yeah,
again, I feel like G2, they're so good at managing their ult economy that they always have at least one ready to go for the next round.
And they also don't sit on ults. When they get an ult, they're going to use it. Like Mimi's ult, if she has a chance to, is going to probably use that res at some point here. Whereas Acend have stacked up 4 big ultis. And I think for G2, it's been the Orbs playing for Glance, the plants as well, so she's getting it. And then Mary just has 9 kills in 5 rounds, right? So makes sense she's going to have that. This is actually a little bit of a more spread setup, I think, from G2. That's reminiscent of like old bind defaults where Raze, sort of works up in Hookah. Now, instead of just using that default boombot to take the space, they are committing the Sky Dog, which does reduce the amount of, forcing utility like I'm talking about with G2 down to just the 2 flashes from Petra. She hasn't used the first one just to get information early in the round, but what they're going to rely on is now when they make presence towards A, Mary has an angle where she can catch these players if they're not careful as they rotate off of B. She can shoot them peeking down out of Hookah onto them, and then the G2 players grouped up on short can look to quick teleport and pivot back into Mary if she finds any kills on the rotators.
G2 now, though, firmly have their sights set on this A side as they look to go forward. Petra with the flash, having to watch 2 angles makes her job a little bit more difficult, though the team is going to be there for backup. Again, the flash not going to find too much information, and off the back of that information, with the clock ticking down, it's going to be the Nightfall invested. That's
There's
a lot
the
of
pick.
information.
And now's the TP.
Yeah, Mary, like exactly like you mentioned, Ender, finds that huge kill, and now off the back of that is able to take up so much space. In fact, completely clears out backside, and HTM, the only player on this side, tries to peek out, find a kill, but unfortunately Petra more than ready for it, and now Acend a 3v5 retake here. They do have the Showstopper, and if Schnell is able to find that first pick with the help of it, it might be the difference maker. 2v4, how much more can she find? It's just gonna come down to the remaining player, Jade, having so much work to do here, not gonna be able to find anything, and G2, they find 5.
Yeah, I mean, G2's plan just works out perfectly right there. And the thing is, if Mary doesn't find that pick, the round is a little bit cooked for G2. Maybe they just gamble teleport in because they were getting down to less than 30 seconds. And because Mary is lurking, playing away from the rest of the team, they don't have anyone that can, jump forward ahead of the rest of the team and capitalize off of the flashes that Petra would be sending out. So very important she found the timing on that pick, but that's a very classic bind default strategy that G2 looked very comfy on. And Mary, 2 rounds after using the ultimate, is just one off again. Hello?
That's just Mary. I feel like all of us should be used to it at this point. Whenever she plays a race, I feel like she pops out at least 3 or 4 showstoppers a half, and as she should, honestly, because she is her.
True.
We've been talking about this for like I feel like a year now since she came onto G2, and she has just proven herself so much.
Oh yeah, big time. Has been so solid, because I mean, if you think about it, in less than a year, G2 have gone through this huge like rebrand. I feel like, right, when the legendary Zaz left the roster, everyone was like, who's this Mary person that's coming in? and then Mary played so incredibly well. They went on to win champions. Then Giuliano leaves the roster. Star duelist, star IGL for G2 goes in. Well, Mary steps into the duelist role. She's always been cracked, so you have no doubts there. Petra steps into the IGL role for the team now as well, and I think for them it means so much to make it back to a final, to win a final after, you know, the big changes that have gone through this organization over the last year, and for Roxy too, joining into this team to defend her EMEA GC title, where last year she took down G2 Gozen in that final for the first time.
It's kind of funny that Roxy ended up joining G2, but I think that in one of the previous interviews she did mention that she knows all the players quite well and she plays with them. So I'm just hoping that compared to G2 Gozen when Giuliano was at the helm, it just seems like they're still kind of having a little bit of, I wouldn't say issues really, but they're kind of having trouble finding the same level of standard that was there towards Game Changers Championship, which is completely understandable. You know, role shuffles, you do have new players coming in and they have to kind of find that synergy. But I think that on this map, at least against Acend, they certainly have managed to find their footing in style, for lack of a better phrase.
For sure. And I personally am not a huge like overreactor just yet on
Sure.
G2. They've lost 2 series that went the distance to BBL. One of them was decided in OT by 2 rounds. So I still have faith that G2 I mean, obviously they're a very strong team, but I think that when I initially saw this roster change of Roxy coming in, I was like, yeah, this team is going to stay a contender. There's just no way. Like, the meta suits G2 perfectly with the chamber nerfs. You want Mary on Duelist, you want Roxy playing, you know, usually her Killjoy style. On Bind, things change a little bit as they play the double smokes, and she's going to be stepping into Viper. But this team is still an absolute force to be reckoned with. Now, Acend, on the other hand, is a little bit more of a surprise team. Just 2 months ago, Schnell and Lateu got added to this roster, and then they have just been taking names ever since. I think that you still see some of the you know, learning curve come together with this team that's only been around for a little bit, but I think the thing that's impressed me most about Acend is that even if, you know, Schnell is having an off game, that second line, that second layer of entries, Jade, Amy, are always finding ways to trade out, find lurks if it's going to be on their attacking side, and then clutch up rounds in the late moments.
It's also very interesting because if you consider both of these teams, right, they both had the IGL, they both had a new IGL kind of step into play with the Acend kind of, I believe it was Medica that used to beat their IGL last year, kind of having that role swapped around. It's going to be a bit of a learning curve for them, like you mentioned, but I think Acend, it's very impressive that right out of the bat, they're able to come in that top 3 of EMEA, which is one of the most competitive regions, I gotta say, for Game Changers. So it's very exciting to me that a team, like, right out of the gate, they're able to pull off a kind of position like this that's super good for them. And I think that they're only going to get better with time because the learning curve, I think that the biggest problem with them, in my opinion, is finding that team synergy. Like, every now and then you see Schnell and Jade, especially on Bind, being able to pull off those raise fade combos that you expect. And when you're running this kind of a team comp, right, a lot of the plays that you're going to be making, it depends on being able to pull together that kind of utility to set up your raise. And Schnell, you know, she might be having off games, but I feel like Mary, the kind of setup that Mary gets from her team, if Schnell had that same kind of backup, she would definitely be higher up in that numbers game.
100%. Now, actually, I think it might be cool since we have a little bit of extra time. It's a nice little technical pause, as you can see in the center of your screen. It says it twice, just in case you can't read the sort of like grayed out technical pause. It's in all white, just blinding you there to make sure that you know what's happening. I do want to talk a little bit about the G2 comp because the fact they've already won 5 rounds on attack was my only question of them coming into this map. And honestly, I think this may be enough just to wrap up Bind and guarantee them a Bind map. Because on their defensive side previously, they went 10-2. Now, the way that G2's comp plays out in a lot of times, actually I think the tech pause might be over, is that unless they're doing like set pieces at the start of the round, they kind of have to spread the map to guard against flanks because they don't have like a true sentinel or a sentry. They don't have like Killjoy, so I have to watch their flanks. I think Acend could get away with doing some more aggressive pieces of their own, like they're setting up towards showers now.
Yeah, Schnell gonna be the one to take that first kill. Beautiful headshot onto Mary, though. Now we're gonna see that resurrection come into play, and I like that Acend, they aren't getting greedy about this. They know that it's gonna be a lot of work to be able to refrag that kill. Petra though pushing up. Yeah, just catches the hint of the Sheriff, and Petra is able to just push up off the back of that.
Oh, there's a really quick flank though. Check out Amy down short with U-Haul getting stalled out and Lateo finding a kill.
The timing.
Amy has a chance to stab them all in the back.
It's gonna come down to the timing. Unfortunately, it's gonna be a teleporter play though. Schnell is still able to pull through and not only get that kill, but also puts down the paint shells, doing quite a bit of chip damage in the process. Glance gonna be trying to hold down the hookah position here in case there's further aggression. And the Seeker's gonna be invested as well for some additional information, but Acend, they have the numbers advantage again.
I think that was just 80 million teleports going through there. Everyone wanted a little piece. There's no flashes to get them back into hookah though. This is the problem. Their flashes are an elbow, so Glance has a chance to find two people staring behind her. She chokes just a bit, trades 1 for 1, but now players coming in from all different directions. G2 are completely isolated on the snipe, and Schnell with a 3rd kill in the round just about wraps this up for Acend. It'll be another fight down elbow, and Schnell finds a 4K to wrap that one up.
Yeah, really nice round coming out of Acend, and it seems like they finally, I feel like on a map like Bind, especially when you're playing against that Zero Cypher Killjoy style that you mentioned, you have to be confident about your peaks, and Schnell exemplifies it in this first kill that she manages to find on Mary. Just being able to, if you're playing Raze on Bind and you're not confident about pushing out, it's gonna be super difficult for you. But Schnell, it seems like she's finally found her footing on this map.
Yes, and it was her looking for the pick down long. Because again, G2 sort of have to use their bodies as scouting tools, right? With Sky, you don't really have perfect information. So I want to continue seeing Schnell now angled outside down towards B long. This is the exact right pivot from Acend. Remember, before the tech timeout, they did have a legitimate timeout to try and play with. And actually, that cascade blocking off information of the flash, they realized it a little bit too late, and Mimi kills everyone.
Yeah, it was such a nice cascade to be able to enable Mimi to peek off the side, and of course, if you give Mimi an opportunity like that, she's not going to miss. Exemplify it, and suddenly it's gonna be probably a safe call coming through for Acend. Maybe they can try to do a little bit of damage. If they can find a couple of picks, if G2 makes some mistakes that they capitalize on, it might be what they need, but I think that this round is basically done with, and G2 just off the back of, I believe it's 150 credits for a cascade. It's not even that expensive that you piece of utility.
That's, you know, 150, that's like a candy bar or something, right? That's a Snickers. I don't know. $1.50 or $50. What does candy cost? I don't know. I don't really eat it. In VALORANT? Yeah, what is the going rate of candy? How much Radianite does it cost to buy a candy? Because, like, it costs like 10 Radianite to make your guns glow, which I feel like is a really cool effect, you know? So a candy bar can't be that expensive.
Well, while we think about it, Mimi is able to find the 4th kill on the round. Looking for the ace, decides to fall back and save the rifle instead, and Amy is going to be the only one left with a weapon in hand as G2, they find 6 here. But back to our candy discourse for a second. I think you would pay in credits and not Radianite, because Radianite just makes your stuff glow. So if you want to make your candy radioactive, you would probably, you know, buy some Radianite to make it glow. But
is that how they get their powers? Like, Harbor can command the water because he had, like, I don't know.
He has the Benton watch, or like the bracelet thingy that he's wearing. The artifacts, yeah, that's the word. So Astra,
right. And it's like a little Fez machine. You pop it and then the candy comes out. He eats it and controls the water. I saw that in the cinematic. It's the same play again, not like this. The same cascade that doesn't give info. I think actually this time they heard it. But now with the dog coming around the corner, they're so exposed as the swing falls in from G2. The ultimate traded out. Schnell has found a couple of kills here with Jade. It's even 2 for 2.
And once again, though, Mimi, after that 4K, will have the resurrection in hand, so Mary's gonna be back in fighting shape. A momentary advantage for Acend has been taken away. Amy, though, still watching this hookah angle, will hear the teleporter noises coming through, and now Acend, they know that the hit is gonna be towards A instead. Mary, once again leading the charge, does still have the paint shells to work with if necessary, and I love this combination of the cascade and the wall, because it just creates like this little bit of square space that completely protects the planter, and it just makes things so impossible for Acend.
There's no way to spam that one out, and they're all just playing inside of the Viper's pit now off of that plant. all three players from Acend sort of coming in at their own angles. I think it would be Amy to try and accomplish something walking down short with the reflank from Glance. That might be enough just to finish off this round. That late round backstab should ruin everything, especially with Mimi finding the first.
Yeah, if Latio was able to win that fight, there might have been a chance in this particular round, but it just seems like you're going to be walking one by one into the Vipers with so many angles to really look out for. And between Mary and Mimi, they clean house. G2, they find 7 here, and Acend, once again, they're going to be left out of pocket. They should be able to scrape together a buy once again, but I feel like G2, the first time the aggression came through on short, they weren't prepared for it, but now they're just going in groups. They want to be sure that they trade out every single time.
I mean, they're just death balling wherever they want to go around the map. I think that Acend, with only a few rounds left, and also rounds they must win. I think you have to play to win every single round here from Acend. I want to see like every single player, as soon as they were into contact, like trying to find fast flanks, fast lurks, whatever it's going to happen on the defense. They can't just sort of sit back and wait for G2 to come to them. I think that's where G2 are kind of going to run them over, and this round, they are doing just a little bit of that. It's actually Amy taking first contact up towards Hookah herself, which could be problematic because she's the only one with an ultimate trying to win out in this round. So if she falls, that means she can't really pivot back onto B with that ulti. On the flip side, though, if they do get information off of HTM's jump peaks back spawn or off of this dog too, she can sort of fall down, drop down the Viper's pit, and that would be a pretty good way of forcing G2 back.
It could be if G2 were inclined to be forced back. Yeah, at least the Boombot gets stopped in its tracks with the help of that pull coming in, and an early teleport that's gonna be heard by G2. They hear 2 bodies coming in towards them, and they're like, yeah, we want nothing to do with this site. We know that the A side is gonna be very lightly guarded. Probably played for retake instead. Jade almost finding the timing. Unfortunately, though, Petra still able to convert that kill. Latio on the hunt finds the trade at the very least. 1 off of that Cosmic Divide now. We might be seeing that come into play if necessary, and now it's gonna be a post retake setup coming in. Once again, 1-for-1 trades. Mary still holding strong, has the pain shells back. Satchel's away as well, so remains alive, and they know her position. Beautiful kill coming out of Amy, and it's just gonna come down to Mary. We've seen her clutch out before, but 1v2 scenario, the spike still ticking, and it's gonna be a little bit too much for her to stomach as HTM finds that final kill. Acend find 3, finally around for them, and they do it really, really well.
Yeah, a couple of great kills from Amy on the retake, making it happen in a very chaotic round. But I think what it comes down to is G2 get themselves so split apart here. Look at this spot that Roxy is playing. Glance not instantly able to find the trade because I actually don't think Amy was exposed when she came around the corner to the player in showers. It looked like it was a perfect trade angle, but because she sees the shoulder so early there from Roxy, she can get that kill and finish it off. Also with Amy playing down short by herself, yes, she finds that first kill, but then she's sort of blocked off by the wall. She can't really get back into that fight instantly. That happens from G2 from time to time, where in the post plant, if they go on their own little missions, they're not always in positions to be able to trade out on one another. Great fight from Schnell. Ooh. Acend have really found an answer to these showers hits that we saw G2 going for quite a few times back at the start of the half.
Yeah, it's been evolving. You saw Schnell going in for the dry peek the first time. Now there's a little bit of help from her Astra, and she's able to get the kill off the back of that. Now, though, G2, once again, early round, they lose a player. And again, in the meantime, while all of this has been going on in showers, there's been a push on both sides of the map here. The first one, Mimi able to find that kill. Amy going down is huge. No more Viper's Pit online. And Roxy watching on the lurk. Almost finds the trigger discipline. Gets that first kill. Aware of the second. Converts it too. G2 are just running a slaughterhouse right now. And Acend early on in the round. 1 minute left. They only have 2 players left.
I understand wanting to go for it, but G2 just ruined it. HTM's position maybe has a chance. She's sort of sandwiched between 2 players now. Has to find this fight onto Roxy, and actually has a fantastic timing to do so. Won't be able to see the planter. Actually doesn't see Roxy around the corner too, but with a flash through that wall, that should be an easy kill for her. But she has to go quickly because coming in from behind, it's Mimi.
Oh, she has the awareness though. That flash is gonna let her know that there is still a player towards short. So now they know the positioning of all of these players. The Cosmic Divider is gonna come out to try and isolate this fight. And if HTM can win this battle, it might be what they need. The spike gonna be tapped. Let's see finding the first though. Glance is immediately there for the trade, and a lot of work gonna be left on the shoulders of HTM. A full running strafe. Glance able to find the kill, and now this Cosmic Divide gives her the protection to just sink the spike. No. Oh, that's just nasty work. And even though Mimi gets the the kill. The round, it still goes for Acend. And HTM, you have my respect.
Giga Chad there. HTM just full sticking it. The defuse finishes the second the wall falls as well. And it comes after Acend almost through this round. You know, I understand why they're trying to double walk out, right? This is actually what I was calling for. I think they need to go for more aggressive plays like this. Unfortunately, the fight when they walked out of hookah, the spacing wasn't good, so it's just one kill, and then HTM wasn't in a spot to swing out with their teammate. And then not clearing both sides going around the corner, it got a little bit loose. But respect to HTM, hated the most. That's what that stands for. Full sticking on that one and guaranteeing the round.
Yeah, G2 fans probably hate her the most after that, I gotta say. But now finally that Viper's Pit coming into play. Amy putting it down early round to kind of fight for the control of B long here, does succeed and manages to get out the Trailblazer as well. Mary still has possession of that Showstopper, will be popping it, but Schnell finds the timing, able to stop her in her tracks as the Guardian shots ring through. Jade finding a second towards the Showers area, and now G2, they're in a little bit of a rough position. 3 players left, caught by the Nightfall to boot, so Acend know that there's going to be quite a bit of heavy presence, and off the back of that, Amy goes for the push, but G2, they just bounce back in style. 2 kills on the round, and numbers fall back in equivalency here.
Yeah, there will be yet another flank. So Acend just sending them one by one by one. No raise to sort of jump back into sight for G2. And as the flank continues to speed up, they will have time to get a plant off. No one immediately ready to fight. We'll see if Latea wants to do something, but with that Cove, it's just so easy to get the plants down. Mimi finds that kill in towards Lamps as well. So now everything falling apart for Acend.
Yeah, Mimi also has the resurrection off the back of that. Like, G2 didn't have the numbers advantage already. This Cove still proving to be a menace, though it finally falls. Lateo able to find that first kill. Petra there for the trade, and HTM once again in that clutch situation. No Cosmic Divide to help her out this time. She's gonna have to do this gun to gun here. Does get the beautiful flash onto the first player, but Mimi there to swing out and make sure to keep her teammates safe. And G2, they find 8. Well, Ender, you asked for an 8 for us, just on the wrong side.
That's tough. Yeah, G2, the big lead now. And I think Acend, 2 rounds, they sort of overheated just a little bit. They find the opening pick onto Mary. They find another one onto Jade, but then they're sending that solo flanker out of the teleport to wrap around short. They're playing a little bit too isolated there. Cost them maybe a couple of rounds towards the end, and this is where things get real rough. G2 on the defense has such great stalling power. Acend looked a little bit disconnected, I think, in their attacking side, so maybe they've cleaned that up and they have more of a chance, but I discount them immediately if they don't secure this pistol round, I'll be honest.
Yeah, a lot on the pistol here. It will enable them to kind of lower that round disadvantage that G2 have built up over the course of the half. Now, Acend, again, they want to go for these early fights, but G2, they're happy to just play a little bit passive, putting down the cascade towards long, and now they're going to have to be very careful about how they clear this, because there's the possibility that a player could have crossed over. 3 players, in fact, from G2 looking to aggress towards long here. Trailblazer spotting out what if 1 or 2 of them at the very least, and I think off the back of that, it's going to be a reverse position committed by G2 to make sure that Acend is still kind of hanging around here, which they're not. They're going to be taking their fight over to the A side instead, where things look a little bit less crowded by G2 players.
Yeah, definitely. There was a little bit of a fight. No Sky actually playing with Acend here. Luckily, there isn't a fight, although Mimi has a chance to maybe swing out. The paint shells will stall her out. And actually, it's Acend who are playing a couple inside of the smoke, pushing in the back side. What a little play and a 2-piece out of Amy. Quickly traded back from Glance, though. It's 3-on-3.
And the spike, it's going to be planted almost completely in the open, and with that Astra available, G2, they're going to have to hunt down the remaining players to ensure that they can actually get the defuse. Glance does have the Cove here to at least be able to tap the spike and get a little bit of information. And in this corner, Jade, that's such a powerful position that she's holding. She's going to have to somehow get these kills and fights. It's going to be Mary's nade, though, in the end that finds her and takes her out. The last 2 players both towards short. Roxy has that information. All she has to really do is play for that angle as Mary gets these kills one by one. HTM once again in that position to be able to try and clutch things out, but unfortunately she has no HP to work with, and Roxy finds that final kill. G2 get to 9 and Acend. Yeah, looking rough.
It's so important that Acend plant. Now they will force. Acend are a team that on their attacking side, when they get the plant down and get that bonus money, oftentimes they will force, and I think that is actually probably the right call for them. Unfortunately, this plant spot is not actually planted for short. It looks like it's open for everything, but you actually have to push pretty far. You can't just play from that cubby there. You have to push all the way down. So makes it really hard for them to play into that post plant. Now, G2 continuing to play for the FPX buy, so only 3 rifles. This gives Acend some legitimate chances when attacking into the site. You'll notice there's actually only 2 rifles playing over, actually only 1 rifle towards that B site in the hands of Mary. So if they were to commit into that, that would be a big deal for them. G2 will continue to play this way, though, where they put down that wall towards long and look to just pick up orb after orb after orb on their defense. And it makes it hard for Acend to accelerate into B for the first 40 seconds of the round.
Yeah, it's not a fight there you really want to take either, because when you're breaking that wall, if somebody's on top of it, it's going to be like basically an easy kill for them. They regroup towards this A side instead, going for a very quick and aggressive hit. Petra caught onto sight by that C's Pain Shells combo. This is exactly what we need coming out of Schnell. And now Glance, holding down the Showers area, will be able to find 2 as she swings out, looking for the 3rd kill, doing quite a bit of damage before falling back. Again, the awareness coming out of her, not quite able to connect the kill, as in that close range, the Stinger just shreds through players. That's you probably being able to pick up an upgrade too. And now
Watch for Roxy.
Yeah, G2 in a 3v3. Roxy on the flank here, only a ghost in hand, and it's going to be very, very difficult for her to really be able to connect onto this kill. Kills coming through for Acend. Schnell finding a second on the round as she takes down Mimi. Mary there for the trades, and it's just going to come down to Mary to be able to try and defuse the spike. Does manage to tap it, though it seems like Acend, they're not going to be really taking the bait here. Trying to go 1 by 1 at the very least. Mary knows the position of the last player, has the Pain Shells to boot, but maybe expecting the flash. She's not going to be looking in the direction. HTM finds the timing and gets that, prevents the defuse, and Acend, they find that bonus.
Yeah, I mean, when the clock's getting down like that, and you know the enemy team hasn't half-stuck it yet, when you hear the tap, you count to 3, and then you swing, right? The half is 3.5 seconds, so you'll be just in time before they can stick it towards the half, but also, the diffuser in that situation can't afford to just tap and get off, right? They have to look for the half stick, so by delaying the maximum amount of time, increasing Ascend's chances there. Very nicely played by HTM in that position. And for G2, I think this is actually poor planning from them, poor awareness, deciding to go for the FPX buy even after they know Acend got the spike down. And if they've done their prep, they should know Acend, when they're attacking and they get a plant on pistol that they then lose, they will always force up, and you can't take 3 rifles into the 5 SMGs. It's just far too risky. They only had 2 rifles on the A site to fight through. As soon as the first player dies on the hit, well, they only have the 1, and yes, the round looks close because I think it was Glance was able to find a couple of kills, but that's a low odds play I think that G2 shouldn't have stepped into.
Yeah, that's a great word that you mentioned there. And also, again, like a map like Bind, right, where a lot of these areas are just really cramped and you're fighting in these close quarters, it's better if you just have the Stingers online. But Roxy says, look at me with the Sheriff. She finds that first blood onto Amy and still manages to not only keep hookah control, but also retrieve a rifle. On the opposite side of the map, we did see that Mary was able to get that Showstopper online as well. HTM takes her down, though, so that's going to be 2 huge kills. Despite the Harbor Ultimate being committed, it is still going to be the numbers advantage in favor of Acend. Now, the last 2 remaining players, they look to retake the side and they push onward. Might be able to find the timing. Roxy finds 2 kills already towards that backside, and now Letiu having to clutch out a 1v2. Spike not planted for her. No stars either in place, and it's just too far a distance for her to cover as Petra finds that kill, and G2, they win a thrifty.
Yeah, I'm sorry, chat. It seems a little quiet. It seems a little quiet in the chat. I think Roxy saw y'all talking shit, because they just dominated that round. I mean, that's a full-on eco. She gets a Sheriff kill out of hookah on her own, picks up into the Guardian, I believe. That's how it played out. And then just dominates. The tracking on that 3rd kill, the player jumping, was so clean. And G2, because they were farming the orb onto Glance, they have that for the retake. The pistols are good enough. Then the utility out of Petra, hitting both players in backside with the flash, allowed them to just accelerate into that one and choke Acend out of the round.
Oh, talking about choking out of the round already. Jade going down early on. Acend, they made the decision to go for a little bit of a eco purchase here. Not much that they can really work with, though. HTM does at least find that drop rifle and is able to pick it up, one off of the Seekers. But again, I don't think that's going to be an ultimate that you're really going to be seeing unless Acend they bring the numbers advantage back. Now Mimi playing on top of the box, holding down that cross angle, finds a clean headshot onto HTM, a wallbang to boot. And Acend, once again, they're left without any real control on the map. They only have hookah, and just with that, it's going to be so difficult to make their way into sight, especially when we've seen Mimi in this position before inside the box. She is just a bastion to be able to hold down the side by herself if they do decide to go in.
There's like nothing to do. Yeah, they have, well, they don't even have satchels to get into sight. They don't have flashes, they don't have satchels. They are just going in with a prayer here. But like you're talking about, Mimi around the corner. Hold on. A couple of kills from Acend, but Petra's there. There's just too many numbers, I think, for Acend to deal with, especially with that spike out in the open. Amy finds a rifle. And if she's able to isolate, could have a chance. Knows there's jump peaks, and the two players on G2 back in spawn are playing together for the time being, so not trying to give Amy any real chance. Although she gets the spike, she'll have the rotation timer over to A, so that means a plant. Then she's one off of the ultimate. Shouldn't be possible with Mary having the showstopper of herself also coming around the corner. And yeah, there it is. Having to plant backside, knowing the pressure coming in.
Yeah, there's just not enough time, unfortunately. And yeah, you hear the TP right behind you, and you know, it's just gonna be so difficult to even get that spike down at all. G2 just deny all of it. A couple of kills for Acend. They do manage to charge up some of those ultimates. One off the Viper's Pit still, I believe, for Amy, since even if she didn't get the plant, she could pick up an orb and use that in this particular round. And Acend, this is their last leg. They're gonna have to win this to stay in the series, and I think that's probably why we're seeing a timeout.
Yep, calling that one again from Acend. G2 still haven't used anything. They're like, yeah, we're not going to give Acend any more time to think of how to counter us. G2 know exactly what they want to do. So what are Acend talking about right now? Because G2 have a Viper ult they can use to lock down one side of the map. They have the showstopper to play the retakes on. Or if Acend, you know, group up on their way into a site. Acend have really good scouting ults, and they really want to get the ultimate onto Schnell. If Schnell gets ultimate, then Seekers and Fatal do such a good job of giving a pathway for Schnell to follow to get that ult onto a site and shut down, even if Roxy does manage to ult. So G2 have played almost every round using the Sage wall outside of B long to get that orb for themselves. Acend can either choose to fight that wall or fight for showers. But what I'm expecting G2 to actually do this round is instead to use Mimi over towards showers to mix things up after the timeout and put down her wall there perhaps, and then use the Viper towards B. But instead, she is actually going back over towards B once again, and it'll actually mean it's a very easy orb for Acend to take on showers. So I think maybe G2 playing the game of, oh, you know what I want to do, so I'm going to do something different, but I'm actually doing it the same. Maybe playing it a little bit too much, is it's just really a fade eyeball that'll let them get this, I think.
Yeah, I believe that the flash from Petra does get some information towards showers. So after that rings positive, it is going to be the Trailblazer for further information. Though it doesn't quite find anything. Prowler going to be invested by Acend to make sure that Petra isn't playing anywhere close, so they can get this orb for Schnell. Now it's going to be multiple players from Acend kind of stacked up towards the showers area as the spike itself makes its way down towards short. And G2, they're happy to just let this site go in for the retake. They know they have those ultimates remaining, and they know the potential of that showstopper, so they're just going to be like, hey,
double TP?
Yeah.
That's crazy. And now the Boombot to scout out Lateu. They know she's there. Mary's able to find that kill. The forward push from Schnell does not pay out. It's a 3-on-4 now with the pit to play through. Now on the retake, Mary has that ultimate, so it's real tough to play inside this, especially if Petra can send in a flash to make it so easy. As Mary falls, Acend have a real chance here.
Yeah, no more showstopper to try and take this Viper's Pit out. Amy, we've seen her in this position before. She's been that kind of clutch player, so as to speak, but she has to clutch out a lot here. 1v3 to close it out. Does fight the first two, but glance with the shorty will put a stop to that clutch as G2 get to match point. I think the calls would have come through. She's low, just pull out your shorty. And it's just gonna be 150 credits to put the last nail in the coffin.
Shorty, not like that. Just full blind through the smoke. Ridiculous. Absolutely absurd. Actually, there may have been a world where she saw the gun barrel of Amy, because one of the best things about a shorty inside a Viper's Pit is the gun barrel is so short that you're actually going to see your opponent's gun barrel before they see yours. So that might not have been a full blind shot from her. Even then, just looking for any amount of chip damage onto a 2 HP target and going for the blind shots there. That shorty's going to do excellent work. Here we go. G2 looking to wrap this round up right off the rip.
Yeah, Mary pushing with the showstopper still gets a kill before Amy can quite trade it out. So that's going to be a 1-for-1 trade. Really good for G2, honestly, considering that they did manage to take down Jade. That's going to be one of their info initiators out of the game already. And Mimi does have the res if she wants to get this player back up. Aware of that, perhaps. That's why Acender's still pushing down the short issue. Going to be calling for a full rotation. And this lurk coming in, it's not going to be finding any value, unfortunately, for Acend, unless they decide to push forward onto the B site here and take control of that.
Yeah, I think the problem is HTM, I don't don't believe was in range to hear the footsteps of the players actually abandoning the site, so she can't, really try to walk in on her own there. That'll be real tough for them. So it's actually going to be a bit of a quieter rotation now. G2 are still definitely leaning towards A, but like you're saying, this is a free resurrect from G2, so Roxy doesn't even need to overfight from elbow here. They can just play the 5-on-4 retake once they get the res, because Glance has the ultimate. It should be very, very simple for them to track that one down and potentially get some flanks of their own going in.
Yeah, no ultimates at all, except if Latu does get the plant, it's going to be the Cosmic Divide in play here. And Acend, like you mentioned, they've completely abandoned the rest, so it's just going to be however much time that buys off of them. Yeah, 4 people take the TP. It's going to be the Harbor ult as well to boot, and both Glance and Roxy off the back of that find 2 huge kills. Latu and Schnell, they're going to be the last 2 players to desperately try and keep the dreams of this map alive for Acend. It is G2's map pick, so they do have another one going in, but Glance is just going to be trying to sneak the spike here. Does manage to almost find half before being taken off by the pull, and now Latu has a mountain on her shoulders to be able to overcome, and Mimi will deny even that first step. G2 13-5, they take map number 1.
Look, it was a better performance, I think, out of Acend this time on
2.5x
Bind, but G2 still exceptionally dominant on this map, and just nothing Acend could do about it. Had some clutch rounds, they were able to pull through. Amy, again, continuing to impress consistently. I am amazed by her, but on the flip side, it is just round after round, the merry show, diving into sight. I love G2's theory on this map of just farming up the ult orbs onto Glance, making on their attack the sight execute simple, and the retakes on B looking very, very easy for G2. G2, even with, I think, a low amount of forcing utility in this composition, because they get the Harbor ult online so many rounds, that just straight up wins them rounds over and over, and they can compensate for some of the things that this team is lacking.
Yeah, they're also exceptionally good at playing off of each other. Like they just go for kind of like this converge pincer play most of these rounds on the retake. So there's so many angles that Acend have to consistently fight off that it just seems so difficult for them to really do. And even if one of their players go down and they're in a bit of a numbers advantage, there's always somebody who steps up huge to be able to bring things back in their favor. Like Glance, for example, being able to swing out and find that 2K in that pistol round. Despite that though, Acend, I feel like they are looking to be in much better shape. This isn't their map pick, and if we go into their map pick and they're able to play with the same amount of synergy that they've had over the course of this map, that they've improved so much, it might be what they need to keep this going for all 5 maps.
Oh yeah, look, we're going to be moving on to Split next, which is a map that I think Acend have looked pretty good on in the past. Got some, actually a recent win on that, but haven't played a ton of it. So I imagine they've been maybe holding some stuff to debut here against G2 for a spot in the finals. I hope that they can come back with a bang here on this second map, because G2 from start to finish of Bind, I think we're just so dominant. Everyone's showing up in form. Roxy silenced the haters, as a matter of fact, but we're going to take a quick break before the analyst desk gets us primed for map number 2.
Red Bull gives you wings.
Zero distraction. Zero doubt. Zero opposition.
What is this from EA? He is currently unstoppable. True. He is just a consistent demon. El Diablo.
Hey guys, it's EA. Welcome to my course on optimal VALORANT training. I'm going to be demonstrating now some angle clearing. I'll slowly come around the corner as well, making sure no one's on these off angles.
What a dominant start from G2. They take the lead in this best of 5. I'm your host, Yingsu, and I'm back here with Anne and Cougar. You gotta feel a little bit bad though if you're Acend, you know. You were probably expecting the bind to come up, but Cougar, they just couldn't find the answers. Once again, the same story as last time.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like the intention was there, but for G2, they also had a lot to show in their attack and how they wanted to use this composition. And we know that the power of Harbor relies on that initiate and smokes, that kind of control that actually goes forward, and that it should be technically easier for you to manage on the attack. But this was just a different color from them.
Yeah, with Harbor as well, they used a cascade to force them up control, force on to B long, and then there were players behind that wall on G2 that were just winning out their gunfights. Players from Acend would walk out solo, they would push down B long, but they weren't able to win the gunfights, giving entries towards the side of G2.
Yeah, speaking of that Harbor, let's take a look at this execute that they did in round 4. They did it a couple of times as well. It wasn't just something that they did it one-off, and Cougar Acend, they just couldn't handle it.
Yeah, I think it's very important because this is the first full buy for both of the teams, round number 4. And it is important because of how they escalate the utility. Mimi is going to be granted that spike, and we see that Glance, even in this 4v5 situation, already has her ult on round 4. The utility is going to start falling, as well as that Reckoning, and she's then going to use that wall, that high tide, to cut off the site. No elbow, no possibility to go into site without being at least slowed. And Mary is just going to go on the hunt. That situation, that 5v4, means nothing to Acend once the plant is secure by them. Mimi ends up one way away from the ult. And it's just very simple for G2 to have this executes time and time again, because even if they're in that disadvantage, Numer's disadvantage, doesn't really matter if you have the ultimates and you know how to execute and you know the strengths of your composition.
Yeah, especially with the speed that G2 do it with, right? We mentioned how this wall from Harbor doesn't stay up as long as other utility from other agents does, but G2 flood the site when they reconstruct it, when they create that safety for themselves. They take control, they push out the Acend players from the site, and even with the little time they have with the wall being up, they get their setup done, and Acend just has to do the guessing game when they get back, when they get that control back, and players at G2 can be anywhere.
Let's talk about round 11 as well, because Anne, you and I were watching this, not really knowing which direction it was going to go. We started up great, they countered Mary, and then things just kind of became chaotic.
Yeah, it very much. I mean, the trend that we've seen from G2 on this map is that Mimi is doing that solo backstep on the side of B. She gets the kill onto Amy, and there was a player literally standing next to Amy, but there was no refrag. That allowed Mimi to go for the flank on the flanker that was going back for the retake on side A. Very much chaotic, very much some mistakes from both sides, but eventually Acend come out victorious on this round, but it really was a ring around though, Rosie.
It wasn't an easy one, and of course it requires some courage to do what they did here. But I have to say, this is just a result of what we were talking about in the previous round. The fact that G2 is so good on the executes, you cannot let them go. You have to hunt them down, and I think that's the response that Acend was getting. That I think that is also one of the strengths of the Astra, just having that cosmic divide. To me, it looked shaky on both sides, but especially Acend. I could tell the nerves. The cosmic divide on the last round as well, walling herself off. It's just nerves and actually getting lost in the chaos that actually G2 used to their advantage.
Oh yeah, G2 love that chaos. The more chaotic I feel like, the better they thrive in. I also wanted to point out some of the Viper utility as well. I know we love a Viper war analysis. So talk me through what you saw there from Roxy.
So here's the thing, right? Roxy wants to use this wall, and I think that she was missing. It's just the smallest pixel just to get it fully straight. But the intention with this wall is getting this lamps control and granting the first part of the site to then combine with the Cypher. And as you see, the last part of the wall is going to be onto CT. So the point of this is to segment and cross those Viper walls, and then grant that control to that second part to backside. So in this position that Astra is in, that you can get it. So when someone comes from CT, they have the DK from the wall, and you can take advantage of that. But G2 weren't able to actually go that far. I understand the intention, but the rest of the planning wasn't on the same line of the previous part, you know?
Yeah, and I also, even watching this is giving me some flashbacks of Why doesn't someone just break the cove, deny the plant? You know, if you're not planning to play retake, if you're always losing someone on site, I think I would have liked to see them deny it a little bit more. But hopefully, we'll see them come back on their map pick, which is going to be Split. I think Bind, we all knew which side it favorited. Do you guys feel like there is one team that you particularly favor here on Split?
Ooh, difficult. I mean, as we mentioned in the pre-show, right, Acend have only played it once against Caramel Com, so there isn't that much information on how they play. That might make it more difficult for G2 to expect what Acend will be doing, especially if they come out with a different composition. For example, I hope that will favor Acend in this way.
I think it's complicated because, as you said, there's only one, and it was at the beginning. It was the first round of the group stage, so it's a long, long way back. Well, not that long. But for G2, they've played it 4 times, and there is a lot of footage on how they want to do things and the ideas that they have and what is behind it. So maybe that's the reason that Acend decided to go for this split. It is something that they know how to play. Maybe have perfection, and moving into this match is, I think, it's a good card to play.
Well, let's take a look at some of what G2 do on Split here. I know you guys picked out a few seconds, in fact, of what we can expect from them.
Yeah, chaos. I mean, we talked about the entry here, right? Mary gets his power position, but she gets that with the showstopper as well, gets a double entry, forces so much map control, and this clip was so fast, right? We're playing it once again. She gets flashed from her own teammate before even doing that, so she shouldn't be getting away with this, but she does, and she creates a lot of map control for that, which then allows the G2 players to go onto side, get the plan down, and from there on just play the post plan, which they have been doing very well.
She gets stunned, gets a kill with the showstopper because it's Mary and it's a showstopper. And also, I can't remember, but somebody picks off of the smoke in a weird timing. And even though she's stunned, just because it's Mary, she gets the kill. And then we enter a situation when it's already a 3v5. The only thing that they've used is truly that showstopper. They also, I believe they used the breach onto side, but Mary doesn't even need to look that way because she sees that there is no activity on that side, and they're already running onto her to get in those kills. So let's say that pound for pound, G2 has very good players, and there's so many occasions when it comes to individual level and actually, you know, them pulling out this performances that gives them the advantage.
Oh yeah, G2, they get away with murder sometimes, I feel like. Let's take a look at the agent select here and see if we see anything new from the side of Acend. It's been a little bit since we've seen them play on Split. They did choose this map, so I'm eager to see what they have planned here. What do you guys think?
Maybe, yeah. They used to go for that double controller with the Viper Race. The Viper Astra. And it looks like we might go on to the same down the same path.
Nothing new so far. It's pretty much the same comp that we saw them play before.
Yeah, it's the same, I think, right? Yep. I mean, the 4 times that G2 played this map, they all played it with the same comp as well. So they like to bring out the same thing. They're comfortable with what they bring. They have their own plan, and they're willing to go for that. And it's up to Acend to expect what G2 will be doing, especially considering there is so much information on how they play and with what lineup or what composition they do play. Acend need to stop G2 in their plans, in their aggressive takes, if they want to regain control of the rounds.
I do want to quickly point to this Viper as well. What do you guys think? What are you expecting from them? How do you stop that?
Mid control, you just wait, you have the breach, there's a lot of stuns, you have the sentinel power also of the Cypher. There are a lot of tools in their pockets that they can use. I think it's mostly on the second half that they might struggle a little bit. On this first half, I'm looking at Glance, I'm looking at that Omen and seeing how she's going to play it, how aggressive she's going to get, and if she's going to be alone.
Well, we'll see if they can indeed. I mean, I messed up his name already. I might as well just continue to do it today. So gonna throw this over to Zach and Endu.
Endu. All right, that's a new one. I haven't quite heard that one before, but I'll take it. Might as well. Zach, game number 2 here, coming off of a very commanding victory from G2, but we're moving into Split now. Do you see an angle here or some idea of what Acend were thinking going into this as the second map?
I mean, like our analyst just did bring up, this is a map that they have found victory on before. Sure, it was overtime, and it took like 67 kills between Amy and Schnell to close it 17 to 15. It was a little bit of a long route that they took, but they should have some confidence being able to win. And more than that, this is a map that G2 kind of struggled on a little bit against Guild. They did win in the end, but I feel like with the team comp that Acend is rocking, they have a very strong defensive setup coming up. So if they can make sure that on attack, they get enough rounds, even if they can get like 5 or 4, and they can continue to put up the defense that we saw against K-Corp, that they were able to put up against K-Corp, it's going to be what they need to take this map and push, you know, make sure the series stays competitive.
Now, this is going to be a bloodbath here. There are 4 players ready from G2 with a fault line that could potentially catch everyone. This Viper Wall, if they're allowed to scale up into Heaven gives a lot of options to Acend, but they have to get through this ridiculous setup that G2 have prepared.
Yeah, it's already going to be Glance TPing over, setting up that crossfire that is going to be very difficult to break, especially if Mimi gets the timing on the concussion right. It's going to make things almost impossible, but it does seem like for their side, Acend, they're happy to take it a little bit slow, and in fact, they're going to be extremely cautious here, erring on the side of caution to be able to make sure that they don't get caught out in the open. 1-for-1 trade as the Pain Shells manages to take down Glance, and just like that, it's going to be the controller offline for the rest of the round for G2.
Huh, that was actually a little bit less clean from G2 than I thought. I really thought the concuss was going to come in a little bit earlier from Mimi, but it sort of happened after the fight was already underway between Glance, so it only ends up being a 1-for-1. Now, where things do get interesting is how much Petra wants to step forward on A, because Acend currently set up to pivot back into B, but because the Killjoy is dead, there's no hard flank watch. It would have to be HTM committing to that angle, who has been sticking over towards this side of the map, but now Acend have spread themselves relatively thin. It's just 2 players working up into Heaven. If they run into the crosshair of Mary, who's playing backside on B and Fall, this round becomes very hard to play out for Acend.
Yeah, Mary unfortunately doesn't have any utility left in her arsenal, though if she gets a couple of kills, which knowing Mary, it's very possible. It's gonna be the flank online for Mimi in the meantime. Does manage to find 1 kill, no trade available, and it's just going to be Jade caught in the site between 3 players. Very awkward crossfire. Latiou trying to bounce back. The spike in the open as well. Perfect flash coming out of Mimi, buying even more time, and HTM is only able to find 1 kill, looking for a little bit more damage, but Roxy will find that last one. And Ascend's pistol, they were kind of, like you mentioned, very scattered, and it just falls apart as they die 1 by 1.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, like that was a gorgeous call from Petra. With 25 seconds on the clock, that's when they re-aggress into mid, because it's been so long they haven't heard anything after this, you know, 1-for-1 trade at the start of the round. If Acend are contacting through mid at that point, they've lost the round. They don't really have time to, you know, pivot back into one of the sites. They'll get killed when they try to plant the spike. So G2 going for that late move, that pivot between A Heaven to B Heaven through mid, catches 2 players right in the back, and now it's a round 2 here where Acend don't actually have the plant, so they can't force. And unlike the last game where G2 got punished for going for this FPX buy on their defensive round 2, this should be a very simple setup for them.
HTM already having taken quite a bit of space up towards ramps with the help of that Viper wall. We'll be looking to punish a little bit of aggression from G2 if they indeed choose to do so. In the meantime, Petra towards mid, getting a little bit of information, does spot out 1 player, though it's going to be the crossfire. And G2, you know, they're just playing this as cautiously as they can. They don't want to really drop any of these bulldogs down. And Acend, in the meantime, they haven't found much space aside from that ramps control. One more thing that I wanted to point out last round while we wait for somebody to make a move here is that G2, they are very quick on these rotations. You saw all players being up in A the moment some noise was heard in that pistol, and they're happy to just try to do that again and again. Especially, I feel like we're going to be seeing a lot of that throughout the map, but now the execute is finally going to be starting. 40 seconds left. They're looking to go into this A side here. Pain Shells trying to push Mary off the angle, doesn't quite succeed, and she's going to be able to make her way back into sight to give her teammates some backup here. HGM on the lurk, might be able to find and kill. The timing though, that's just so unfortunate. Pulls out the poison orb at the worst time, and it's just going to be the spike itself dropped in a very bad spot and not much time left.
Yeah, you know, this is looking completely unwinnable to me as Petra finds a 3K. These aren't like true eco frags, you know, Petra, this is all a pistol that's required to make this one happen to 4K. Is it just a pistol ace from Petra? No! She can't quite find the final shot. Amy does her in with the Sheriff, but all in all, a very clean round for G2. Petra just stacks up the orbs. She might actually have her ultimate online because she actually got nothing in the first round, so she only has 5 orbs, but off of 4 kills and a death. That puts her on track for a very quick Seekers. And I will say that one of the things that I noticed with Petra on this map when she played previously is she puts herself in a lot of positions to take fights early. And I think sometimes this can cost G2 a little bit, especially you saw her just sort of like peeking out from male into mid in the previous round when there aren't players around her. But to her credit, G2's comp, where they have the redundancy, is they have 2 flash initiators, right, in Sky and Breach. So losing one of them, they're still going to have some options to retake sites with the flashes of a Breach, even if Petra does fall.
This round, G2 playing a little bit aggressive towards mid. Does try to push out off the back of the paint shells, but lets you more than ready for it. The swing here will be able to take down Glance once again. That controller being the first blood going down for G2, and this is Acend's buy round. They're gonna be they've invested into rifles here. They don't have any ultimates really to work with, but at least they find that first pick. And again, they're playing this really slowly. Quite often, I believe that Acend's kind of relatively slow playstyle, it lets G2 make rotations and moves that they shouldn't really have the right to. But again, the aggression that you mentioned from Petra, Ender, this is gonna be a huge kill if Petra can somehow find it. But HGM playing so cautiously will find that information, and Petra, despite hearing a stampede coming towards her, still stops to get that orb.
But look at this now, like, because G2 gets so much information off of Petra saying it's going to be the late rotate, there's 3 players flanking, they will be heard in spawn. Petra from backside with the flash, only able to find one, was really hoping she could find another, and now it's all up to Lateu with a chance to catch all 3 rotators of G2 up ropes.
It's going to come down to timing. It's going to be watching down towards this angle. So Lateu, if that turret goes off or if that alarm bot, if there's any kind of killjoy utility that gives her that information, it's going to be everything that she needs to get these final kills here. Already spotting out the first player, confirms that kill, and that aftershock is going to do a little bit of damage. Mary going to be the last one standing right now as she finds those 2 kills. However expensive she can make this for Acend, it's going to be a better round for them. She makes her way onto site, but Acend, they've planted for Heaven. They have Heaven control completely in their favor, as well as lineups to play off of. So this basically seems to be a round that's done for the side of G2. They made it so expensive. They're already taking down so many rifles here. Mary 3 on the round already, looking for the 4th to boot. HGM will deny it, and Acend, they find their first round, but at what cost?
Yeah, a win's a win at the end of the day, but I think the slight mistake from Lateu there, just no patience on the shot. She sees the Breach with a fault line charged up, ready to go. She also should have known there were 3 players off the footsteps. If she walks up instead of taking that first shot, she could potentially clean up 3 kills. Instead, every single fight that Acend take gets traded, even though G2 are dealing with angles, on both sides, at 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, they're able to turn around and trade those fights out. It means that now Acend don't have that sort of bank built up going into this round. It's full, or it's heavy, it's light armor rather, and the rifles, but well, that does mean it does good things for the economy in the future. They're not building up the same bank that they could have relied on leading into it. Now, in this round, Seekers are still alive, and this time G2 are playing in front of the tripwire, so the dog coming out of Jade is not able to break that one. And they've got a fault line again ready for Mimi. The second they run into a player, that's going to come out, and they're all going to swing in for a fight.
Petra gets that information. Does beautiful fault line like you mentioned. Yeah, great kills coming out. G2 finding 2 already. 3 players towards mid, each finding a kill, and the camera spotting out Amy as well. A little bit of a hello there from Roxy, and Amy's like, yeah, I don't want nothing to do with the side. It's okay. The round, it's basically fallen apart for the side of Acend. The spike drops in the open. The remaining 2 players kind of trying to come back to fight together, maybe find a couple of kills, retrieve the spike, hoping for a miracle, whatever else you call it, and that flash from Glance, it gives away her position, but it does at the very least ensure that she has the backup coming in from above. HGM might be able to find the timing here, does get that first kill. Things still looking very, very difficult right now, I gotta say, for Acend. Flash, Team Flash in fact coming out of Mimi, but the concussion once again is gonna be pristine. Petra finds the first, Mimi finds the second, and the mid control from G2 is unbreakable.
That setup was real nice, and I think that if you as a professional team on Split figure out unique ways and different ways of setting up trap plays like this around mid, the attackers have no chance to win the game. A lot of the times you'll end up seeing those trap plays be built around, a Raze paint shell, and it'll be a little bit deeper towards, male, B heaven, that sort of a deal. But having the paranoia, having the fault line ready to go to refight into mid and make it so even if you're playing an anti-flash angle, you're still getting destroyed by utility. That's just a really, really nice setup. And and G2 continues staying fluid around the map. Now that Mary has an operator, she had just pushed up outside of A, now she's opping into B. Acend have to quickly accelerate with these 2 players, but they're playing spread out, so it will be a straight up 2 for 2 on this fight down towards ramp, which they don't manage to accomplish anything with. The entire round now slips completely away from their control.
Yeah, it was a 2v2, but the weapons advantage was in the hands of G2, and they also had a little bit of better positioning. You see Glance going for that first swing, and Roxy stepping up after her for cleanup duty, basically. Yeah. And of course, this reposition from Mary, being such a little menace down towards mid, has the showstopper. Unlikely that she's going to be really using it with that operator, being able to find 2 kills on the round already. All down to Amy. We've seen her pull off some miracles before, but in this kind of situation, it's going to be almost impossible. Does find 2 kills with the help of the Sheriff, but Mary's paint shells, they'll be able to clean up houses. G2 find 4. An extremely strong defense coming out here. And between Roxy's tripwires and now the operator for the side of for Mary, it's going to be super difficult for Acend to really make space.
She's got the showstopper too. Even if Acend do manage to get onto a site, I mean, G2 also could look to set up another trap play around mid based completely on the showstopper. Now, one thing G2 have been doing a really good job of is just neutralize, while they're fighting and winning on other sides of the map, they have been neutralizing this Viper wall, because this Viper wall is all about being able to get a Viper lurk up into heaven. Sometimes you can do more aggressive plays with, like, for example, a Sky Dog where Raze would run behind that and sort of, you know, anchor herself up towards A heaven, which they've done this time around. Now, when Acend have just been playing contact into that area, G2 actually hold really aggressive angles, so they'll play right on top of that wall and make it so that no one can actually threaten the lurk. In a similar way to with Mimi playing so up here in B, they're gonna have very early information of if it is a B hit coming online. Mimi will take that fight, fall back, and then the rotations, like you were talking about earlier, can get underway. This time, because they were forced back with utility from that Viper wall, they're left a little bit less confident of where Acend are playing on the map. G2 are playing pretty passively in mid with, you know, the player Petra, you know, down at the bottom of vents. And because they don't have this early info, I would not be surprised as actually they use the paranoia to fight up and clear into vents. I would not be surprised to see the Seekers come online like they just used, which will show that one lurker towards mid.
Yeah, but Acend have so many ults to work with here. They now put down that Viper's Pit to get a little bit of extra time to get that spike down. They also have that lockdown if it's really necessary. And it seems like G2, they're going to be forced to kind of wait for this Cosmic Divide to get away before they can try to go in for the retake. They still have that showstopper onto Mary if they want to create some space, especially considering most of the players for Acend, they're forced to play on the site in this Viper's Pit, giving them a little bit more cover, but still making things extremely difficult. Amy, that first point of contact does spot out Mary. The showstopper going wide, but still the kill is going in the favor of G2 here. Viper's Pit offline as well, and with that neural theft coming in, it's just going to be almost impossible for Acend to really clutch out this round, as the last 2 kills, they go in favor of G2 and the defuse starts.
Oh, poor Jade. She's trying to go on the long walk around, but she gets spotted out by everything. Clock getting low there, but yeah, I mean, from Petra using the Seekers at around 50 seconds remaining in the clock, you know, to then the neural theft coming online for Roxy, like, Jade couldn't have a lurk payout. She couldn't go for the fast lurk through mid because of the Seekers. Then her spawn lurk got completely exposed from Roxy. G2 doing a really good job there, even, you know, owning out on the retake.
I also really like that camera that Roxy put in A heaven, because it just completely counters that Viper's wall. You're supposed to deny information as to how much control of heaven you've taken as Acend, whether you've gone into vents, but that camera, it just watches everything, and Roxy is like, I have my eyes on you. I know exactly where you are.
Yep. Now G2, they're going to want to fight early before Amy's in position to use that lockdown. That's why, again, they're looking to hard hold this angle with Mary. Mimi can just spam away the turret that they saw was placed there inside the smoke beforehand. And there'll be a dog sent from Petra out through mid that I don't think actually saw anyone. Maybe slightly misleading, but pings have come out, and G2 are like, wait a second, we didn't see anyone. Maybe they actually pushed up in events already.
Oh, this is very interesting, despite it being like a basically full eco round with the exception of, sorry, it is going to be a full buy round. I thought I saw Sheriff in hand, but yeah, they bought up. The operator still online for Mary, a rare miss, but with the help of the satchel, she's going to be able to stay alive. The lockdown going to be invested to boot as they try to make their way forward. HTM holding on to the control of vents here, playing very, very deep inside. Mary still, though, anchoring down the site, not afraid of the lockdown. And Acend, they get a little bit too big for their boots, trying to take up too much space before the lockdown really clears out the site as they get that spike.
Oh, the map
down.
is getting funky now, because look, HTM has still been playing up in vents this entire time, but Patience from Roxy. The legs are spotted. HCM finds that kill. Now the players up in B Heaven are really concerned about HCM coming in from behind. HCM doing the smart thing and delay. Don't give G2 a fight early. Make them push forward off of time.
Yeah, now it's going to be Glance towards CT, finding a kill onto Jade here. Schnell, though, still holding the power position. Chego Discipline to boot, finds the first kill. Unfortunately, the spray not quite connecting. It's going to come down to the last player on site here, having to clutch out a 1v2. But unfortunately, let's tell you, she can only do so much before the inevitable comes through. G2, once again, they find a successful retake. And despite that position being held by HDM towards Vents, even though it buys so much time on site, everything just collapses.
Yeah, I mean, HDM makes the exact right call there. You start delaying in that time, but the problem is Schnell didn't find this 2K. The patience was there, the shots not coming in early enough, especially the Bulldog wasn't able to, you know, after you miss those first shots, pivot and sort of reset yourself to get the second. Tough spot to be in. Now with Acend trailing by 5 rounds. Keep in mind, by the way, this is the 3rd time out Acend have called this series. G2 have called none. G2 have been completely confident, as they should be, throughout all of this. And Acend, they not only have to, you know, figure out, like, oh, how do we win around here? But also, this is really scattered by. They could have 3 armors or 3 rifles with light armor, and then use Schnell's ultimate also if they want to try to win around, which I don't think would be the worst idea in the world. But at the same time, Mimi has ultimate online, so I think the better call for them is to actually commit to a half buy here, make sure they can buy in the next round, and put on a show where you can maybe try to get Mimi's ult out here and give yourself a better chance in round 9.
You know, it's kind of surprising because Acend, they have a lot of utility to work with. They have quite a bit of cards to play, but it just seems like they're playing kind of scattered and so slowly that they don't really have the opportunity to use it. They get this plant down quite often. I think that they've had much more success in getting that spike down, but they're just not prepared in their post plant to be able to prevent Ritu from just running amok onto site, and it just makes it so difficult for them.
I also think that G2 are finding a lot of the opening picks. So there it was Mary. She missed the first shot, got the second one on site, but then fell completely off. So it was a 5 versus 4 retake in theory. Again, playing a little bit more passive of an angle. Maybe worried about getting instantly satcheled on or something off the utility. Not quite finding the shot there on the jump peak. But all in all, again, this is going to be a light B setup. It's just the operator for Mary with a trip, her only protection towards heaven, because G2 know that they can retake with the Rolling Thunder, and they're going to be so happy with that. Wow, down to just no HP there off of the shot. 13 is all Schnell has.
Yeah, and it's going to be Mary buying a little bit more time here with that pain shells, preventing them from getting to side a little bit, letting her fall back and go for a full retake setup. Showstopper going to be invested by Schnell as well.
Really?
Unfortunately, not quite finding anything as it doesn't go deep enough into CT to be able to connect onto Mary. At least they get the spike down, so a little bit of extra money in their pocket for the next couple of rounds, but it's going to be a very, very rough situation for them to hold on with nothing but classics in their hand.
This is going to carve them up, and I think they needed the Showstopper. If they're going to use it, you need it as a counter ult when this comes online, because watch that, everyone's concussed. Only Schnell backside safe, but the concuss comes out of the fault line there as well. Lateu finds one, but Glance coming in with a 2K. G2 just carving up on the retake, and that Showstopper was way too much of an investment there, I think.
Yeah, at least they managed to get the Rolling Thunder out, so small blessings for Acend here. But G2 so far on this defense, there's just no gap in their play. Like you mentioned, right? So many of these rounds, they're happy to play for retake because they know they hold the cards. They either have the numbers advantage, or they have a huge positional advantage that they can play off of, or they just have the utility to try and break whatever setup that Acend comes with. And Acend, I think the biggest problem for them is that they're not baiting enough out of G2 before getting that spike down. Sure, they get onto site, they get the spike down, all well and good, but G2, they have so much utility left in that retake that Acend, they just fall apart.
Mimi and Petra just overwhelming the players on site with flashes and fault lines and all that. Not fun. And I'll be honest, when we saw G2 play this map previously versus Guild, I think they played a little bit sloppy, you know? They weren't showing all of these trap plays around mid. Petra was just going and fighting on her own so much, even with numbers advantages. I think G2 just felt very confident, but now with, you know, their split on the line, this is the lower bracket, lose here and it's over for a while. they're playing completely locked and loaded, committing the ultimate even against the eco just to make sure they wrap up the round, playing strong side every time. These 3 players around Mary up in heaven, just ready with a fault line. That's what Mimi has in her hand all the time. She's got a fault line ready from elbow, sending it into vents, already popped that one just to stall out any hit and allow Petra now to rotate in. There's 4 players leaning from G2 towards A, ready for this hit.
1 paint shows, and that's gonna be quite a few kills that G2 find. Schnell, though, holding down his position, does spot the barrels of the guns, but unfortunately only able to find that first kill, taking out Petra before Mary is able to get that trade. 2 players from G2 still kind of anchoring down the site here. So if Acend decide to go for this push, it's going to be very difficult for them to really get any value unless they find these kills. Glance already with that huge opener, managing to almost get the second, tagging up HTM so much, and there's no information as to where exactly Mimi is because she wasn't spotted by that first player. Once again, the concussion comes into play. A little bit of a whiff coming in, but still a 1-for-1 trade, and the numbers advantage stays in the hands of G2. Spike dropped in the open, 15 seconds left. So much work for Jade to really do here. Knows that there's still probably going to be a player onto site. The flash, though, not exactly going as planned, and Mary will find that final kill. G2 8-1, and Acend, they just have no answers.
You know, real talk, both sides, this was a messy round. Schnell should have had 2 there. Another round where she didn't quite get it. And then Glance, like, there's concussed targets onto HTM, but the crossfire, the swing out from heaven comes online. Then Mimi finds her kill off the concuss. It's a little bit sloppy, doesn't instantly find the one. Could have been a little bit simpler, I think, from either side if they had been able to convert in any of those, situations where you could run away with the 2K, but just not quite there. And at the end, I think it is G2's utility that afford them the round win, all things said and done. Looks like the... Yeah, go ahead.
The operator. Mary's back on the rifle. It's like, I don't want to just hold an angle, guys. Let me have some fun too. That seems to be the call for Mary.
True. Actually, look at this. Again, a fault line set up for Mimi back in spawn, trying to catch out into Mail off of it. This paint shells aren't really ready to go from Mimi, but she will be prepared for the rotate back in. A potential to pinch her. With this trip line giving her a little bit of safety. Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no. Wait, she just got her. She just recharged her paint shells immediately after using them.
Yeah, two kills free paint shells, and Mary immediately using it to clear out vents. Luckily for, I believe it was Let's there, doesn't manage to take any damage from it. Tries to go for the heaven swing now, but Mimi ready for it. Back up there for Mary as always, and G2, they just have a backup plan for every single plant that they have. Amy now on the lurk, looking to find some value, but not quite able to get the shot as Petra gets that kill, and Schnell in a 1v5 scenario, not even able to get that first one, as that crossfire between Mimi and Mary is just too much for Acend to really deal with. And G2, they've adapted so well. They adapt every single round, they were playing heavy mid towards like those first couple of rounds after the pistol, and now that it seems like Acend, they have utility to try and deal with that, they've just switched over to site heavy control instead.
And I'm telling you, it is Mimi who is doing everything for G2. Yeah, Mary's landing all the shots. She's doing a very good job. But Mimi, how she is floating around the map with brand new angles for the fault lines, like always managing to catch out Acend. She is doing a phenomenal job, and Acend don't want to deal with mid anymore. They're accelerating into A.
Again, there's going to be a crossfire here. Glance holding down the corner. Going for the trigger discipline play as well. Lets the first player onto site, though Schnell will be able to at least trade things out. Roxy trying to play on site here. Petra speaking out of heaven, finding 2 kills of her own, and now it's all down to Letiu. 1v3. Roxy still on the site here. I don't know if she's aware of the crossover. Letiu has snuck her way into spawn. The awareness from Mary, though, already going to be watching this angle, almost expecting it. Gets a clean headshot to boot, and G2, they are so aware. Nothing goes past them, especially on split. They have looked clean.
Okay, so what I was starting to get out before Acend just full sent into A is Mimi's doing a really good job floating around the map, and basically what I base my peak split performance on is if you go back and watch an old Cloud9 blue VOD, how Zeta floated around the map on breach, setting up for paint shells, setting up for aggro trap plays around mid, in mains, whatever. I am seeing that from Mimi throughout this game. Again, a fault line ready to go here in B main. I'm not sure if she's just sending that off the rip or if it's going to be off of sound, but it has made it so that even as Acend change things up round to round to round, they're almost always walking her to her utility. This is actually reminiscent of a few rounds ago where it's Jade playing that sort of quasi lurk roll over towards mid, with Acend, 4 players just trying to contact into A, but it means they have no flashes to capitalize on here. Just Snell full sending it back into sight once more.
Well, if it doesn't work the first time, try again seems to be the adage of the day. And it's going to be Roxy onto sight here. With the Cypher, gets 2 kills, third on the round to boot, has the neural theft, but doesn't even need it. Finally, going to be putting it into place here, getting information for the rest of the team at the very least, even if they go down. It's the last round after all. You might as well indulge it a little bit. And now it's going to come down to Jade in a 1v4 scenario. Glance looking a little bit low, but with that spike being dropped onto site, the moment that Jade taps it, it's going to be a full-on rush coming in from G2. It's Flash not quite connecting, but nevertheless, they know that Jade is on site here. With 38 seconds, has a little bit of time to work with at the very least, but it's going to be so difficult. Caught by the Flash full on as well, and Mimi swings out at the right time, finds that final kill. 11-1 half for G2, and
it's a pretty solid half, you might say. And you know, I have to continuing. Did Roxy do anything back there, backside? I think she got like a 3K. Mimi's concusses, just perfection. As you can see, not only managing to cuss the enemy team, but after Roxy gets a 3K, Mimi says, no, you're not getting any more. And so she sent the fault line right into Roxy's face. He's like, wait a second, what are you doing? Of course, Mimi's trying to catch that line that all those fights are being taken on. A little bit funny there, but Acend had no answers. This is looking like a very tough series for them.
Well, it starts with the pistol. If they can win this pistol, there's a little bit of a chance that they could possibly slog their way up towards a comeback and prevent their map from completely falling in the hands of G2, but it is a very long road that they have to walk. This time around, G2, they're going to be taking examples from Acend and going for a very quick A push here. 2 players aggressively contesting Heaven right now. That pain shows preventing anyone from playing in that close angle. Schnell, though, having taken so much aggressive mid control, immediately rewarded, and that's going to be a huge kill because that's the controller down right off the bat. Now G2 forced to play a little bit more aggressive, forced to maintain Heaven control if they want to really get onto site, and instead they're going to be regrouping towards Vents as they make their way forward.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there's 2 players from Acend ready to go up towards Heaven. You can see the position that Schnell has is sort of peeking out initially.
Oh, look at the
and
spawn.
HTM will be right there. Yeah, spawn is crazy. There's been so many like lurk 1v1s, but Acend, no way. How does Mimi win that?
Roxy as well towards Heaven, just so many kills being found, and Schnell, no, not like this, not again, not able to connect the shot, so she sees too many players towards Heaven, and the numbers advantage collapses for the side of Acend here. 2 players still remaining, all 3 of G2 onto site here, but caught with the Trailblazer in hand. Mary on Raptors able to do so much damage. I think it's a little bit of information towards Spawn as well, and Amy, we've talked so much about the value that she brings to Acend, how much of an impactful performance she has had before. In a 1v3, finds that first kill onto Roxy. Flash is going to be immaculate. No bullets though! Unfortunately, Mary, despite having the angle, not able to get the shots, and Amy gets a huge clutch to keep Acend in the series here. Check your reloads, please.
Yeah, I never doubted Amy. Obviously, she was going to clutch that one up. Obviously, she was going to be able to take the first fight isolated somehow. Then, you know, the team flash would come in a little bit. There would be no bullets left in the rifle, and she could continue just cruising on through. I say rifle because, you know, the Frenzy is a rifle, effectively. Not there, though. Mimi somehow got that one. Wait, what? What is happening?
I think we're taking a little bit of a recap towards the rifle rounds where they say,
I was like,
yeah,
that did not happen. They were on B.
Yeah. A little bit of a mistimed thing there, and now Acend, they're going to be investing quite heavily into this round. Extremely aggressive push coming out of Mary, though. Able to find a huge opener here as HTM gets taken down. Roxy with a ghost to boot, finds a second kill towards A Heaven, and it's going to be overrun right now. Still going to be Amy with a rifle trying to kind of hold on. Has to find the timing through the smoke. 4 players to watch out for. That's going to be a beautiful astral pull coming in as she finds 2, but that rifle, it's going to be dropped right now. And possible kills coming in. Roxy finds a huge one. As the smoke does so much work here. Roxy with the 4K on the round, the rifle to boot, and Acend. Not a round that you had business losing at all.
Oh, it's just so explosive from G2, right? The utility use where they can just flood forward. Mary finding the first one. I think they had the lurk up ramps as well. It just doesn't matter that Amy finds 2 kills. At that point, you have to kill everyone. Otherwise, that's another rifle that can go into the hands. Roxy gets a neural theft off of that. That ultimate is so cheap that finding a repeated amount of kills here early on, you charge that up for a round 2 ulti. Are you kidding me? Roxy currently topping the chart right there. Same KDA as Mary entirely. and the game, it seems to slip away from Acend. Yeah, they've got 1 rifle on Jade, 4 stingers, or 3 stingers and a Spectre with a quick mid push. If anyone can clutch this up, it would be Schnell to catch out Roxy on that flank.
Oh, but G2, they've already swarmed the site here. Awkward Renegun coming in. Trade's going in favor of G2 though, and unfortunately Renegun doesn't amount to much. It's all gonna come down to Amy. She clutched out a 1v3 in that pistol, had a little bit of luck on her side, but nevertheless managed to do it. But now with light armor, a stinger in hand, no utility to really work with, and 1 off that lockdown, it's gonna be so
what
difficult
are you doing here,
for her to make her way into sight. Yeah, a little bit of a funny interaction there. Now G2 know exactly where Amy is, and the flash is gonna buy time to boot. I'm surprised that G2 aren't just jumping in her face with the classic at this point. Pushes forward. The double peek is too much for her to deal with, and with a triple on the round, Petra closes things out for G2. 13-2. That's even more dominant than map number 1, and G2, they look very, very informed.
Yeah, G2 are not messing around. And to recap, I actually think that for a lot of, this tournament so far, G2 have been playing a little bit loose, right? Very confident, as they should be, coming off of winning champions, even with just the 1 roster change. But here, everything they were doing was set up by utility. Every single fight they took, it was Mimi with a concuss ready to go, and Mimi was just on concuss simulator, having it fully charged at the start of round every single time. But this trap play around mid is really what started it off in my mind with the concuss. Glance still has a paranoia ready to go if they need it, just continually finding these timings. I think the utility usage from Mimi as well as Petra, calling the ideas round around for the team was so on top of that I don't really know what Acend could have done better. They just had to, completely reinvent themselves as a team or something, because no matter whether it was the hard hits into A or the slow hits through mid, G2 were abusing them.
Yeah, I mean, you see people say you read them like a book. Like, it seems like G2 already have the next edition of the novel, because every single time Acend were trying something, they were in position to put a stop to it. Like, for example, when they decided to fight for that A side instead, it's almost like they anticipate that quick A push coming out of Acend, which we saw several times before in their game against K-Corp. They love this A side on attack, and G2, they just anticipated it. And of course, individual power plays coming out to boot. Roxy being that unstoppable person onto site, just shredding players. Of course, you mentioned Mimi for the assist, but I also would like to highlight Glance, and especially in a lot of these cases where players are fighting on site, there were so many clutch smokes coming in that G2 just used their way to kind of spook around site and be like, pop goes the weasel out of the smoke and get a couple of kills off the back of that. So G2, they look pristine.
Yeah, they absolutely did. Now, for Acend, who will now have to win 3 maps in a row, I will extend them 1 olive branch. They just lost 2 maps where they play the Rays. On the next 3 maps, Haven, Lotus, Ascent, Schnell has been enjoying the Jet. So maybe she can get a little bit more going for herself with the safety of the dash, or just the simplicity of go into the site and kill. We'll see if she can get something cooking for us, because it is going to be a long road back for them if they are going to drag down G2. And at the same time, G2 just 1 map away from returning to the finals for a 3rd rematch against BBL Queens. That would be insane. But before that, it will be Haven on the opposite side of this break.
Red Bull gives you wings.
Zero distraction. Zero doubt. Zero opposition.
What is this from EA? He is currently unstoppable. True. He is just a consistent demon. El Diablo.
Hey guys, it's EA. Welcome to my course on optimal VALORANT training. I'm going to be demonstrating now some angle clearing. I'll slowly come around the corner as well, making sure no one's on these off angles.
things have gone from good to even better. If you are a G2 fan, they are 2-0 right now in this best of 5. I'm your host, Yingsu, and I'm back here with Anne and Cougar. Not exactly the way that I thought it was going to go on Acend's map pick, but maybe a lot of that and comes down to the fact that G2, they do have so much more experience in these situations, and Acend may be caught a little bit off guard.
Yeah, I mean, it even starts in a map and phase, right? If you have this experience on all these multiple different maps, you're comfortable playing all these multiple different maps, you've played best of 5s before, you will go into this matchup with maybe some more confidence. And I think that showed on the side of G2. I've been praising them for the confidence, for the quick takes that they've been doing. It worked out on this map as well. Absolutely amazing to see Roxy on top of the scoreboard. We put her in the head-to-head against Amy earlier today, where it seemed that Amy was definitely winning that head-to-head, but Roxy coming out victorious in regards to stats for this one. Also, Petra had a really good start of that game. Just players on the side of G2 all showing up.
Yeah, to me, it's like, we know that they have great players. To me, they had the upper hand in just deciding how the round was going to be, just outshining them in utility usage, just coming at them time and time again. Doesn't matter what plan you have, they're just not going to let you execute it. And at the end of the day, I did not expect a 13-2. Okay,
Yeah.
That was too much, but in the end, I like to see a G2 that actually wants to prove that they not only deserve the spotlight, but also that they can improve what they did last year.
I mean, you guys look at the scoreboard. 2 players on over 300 ACS. I don't remember the last time I've seen this ever. That's absolutely crazy to me. But also, Mary, I feel like sometimes Cougar gets away with murder, and she's just jumping around, bouncing around on Raze, doing her thing. Almost comical sometimes.
Yes, exactly. We wanted to show around because it's very funny. G2 is about to perform a retake, and we see that there's the Cosmic Divide and the Viper's Pit that are already enabled. And the moment the G2 start taking that space, they're like, okay, what do we have? We're close to a couple of ults, but let's go with Mary's ult. They flash in, and she starts saturating around, tries to get a kill, but actually almost kills herself because she hits the screens. But with all of that, she does create a lot of chaos and draws a lot of attention to the rest of the players. And her teammates just follow after her and get the kills. And it's the kind of things that G2 get away with that most teams cannot.
Yeah, I mean, what else can we say? She was almost doing her best Scream impression that we saw this weekend with the Raze satchels. But
Scream could never. Scream would have died.
It's a 2-0. And I just want to say it's not the end. Although, sadly, G2 do have a perfect record when it comes to being in a 2-0 lead in a best of 5. They always went on to win the game. They've never been reverse swept, but records are made to be broken. We're going on to Haven next. You two, we were talking about this in the break, and that you feel like Acend, if they're going to start their redemption arc, Haven is a good place for them to start that from.
Oh yeah, I mean, they have experience on this map. They showed before that they like to go for these direct takes on this map. They don't really thrive off much map control. They go for a singular part of the map. They go for that map control. They go for the execute. For G2, they should understand that, hey, if we hear some noise here, there probably isn't going to be much around the other side of the map. For example, if you hear noise on C long, there isn't going to be much around Garage. That could be a strength for Acend if they have the similar kind of aggression that we've seen from G2 earlier on in this game. But G2 can counter that as well, because they're known to have this solid map control, and they love to put a lot of utility to hold on to specific map points.
I have 2 big concerns. To me is that, and they have names, it's Roxy and Mary. They, after the performance that they just had on Split, when it comes to the defense and actually holding down the angles, we know that Mary is brilliant at it and can be the difference maker. For Roxy, if she's able to be holding onto sites, it's going to be very complicated for Acend to go up against G2.
Well, let's take a look at the last time G2 played Haven. This was against BBL. And Anne, I know you were a really big fan of some of the things that they pulled out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I talked about how they love to hold the control over map points. This is about how they hold control over C long. You'll see them, for example, use Breach's Fault Line. You'll see them use a Paranoia and a Dark Hover, not stacked, but they'll use them right after one another. And this is costing so much time for BBL, whereas they like to access this map, and then they have not a lot of time, but also for G2, they just stick to their power positions. You see, for example, Mimi sticking around the corner, she's waiting for an engagement, stepping out with good, control of Nurse, for example, not over swinging, not over aggressing. They're holding on to the map control. They're regulating their time very well on their own defenses, making it really difficult for the opponent to get map control.
And just that round starts with Mary. Actually, we don't see it in the clip, but that round starts with Mary getting that first kill on the operator onto A-Long and makes BBL have to make those decisions. And they actually stole them for so long, as you were saying, and into C-Long, that by the moment they want to enter, there's already almost 4 players from G2 gathering that side.
Well, let's head into Agent Select now and see what we're going to get. Acend, of course, they have to win this map. If they don't win this map, they are out of Game Changers for this split. They won't have a chance in that grand finals, but I think this is going to be a lot closer. Well, it has to be a lot closer than split. They don't have a choice, do they?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And for the compositions, what we can expect is actually a mirror comp. I don't expect to see anything crazy just because of the way that this map is designed and actually the way the default it can be so easy with this simple composition. I don't expect changes, and I don't think we're seeing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you look at the history of these two teams, right? Acend played this map 9 times, G2 played it 4 times. They all played it with the same composition and also the same composition as the opponent would do. So similar compositions for G2 as for Acend. You do have that double initiator, the controller, and a sentinel, so it's not very much changes that we're seeing on these sides, just, you know, what they're comfortable with, the rolling with their own plans that they had, and they are happy to continue with the plans that they had.
This Jet duel is going to be so interesting, but also so pivotal. It could make or break them, and so far, unfortunately, Cougar Mary's kind of been ahead in all of this, but it is punishable. She's doing a lot of things that I feel like if Acend can actually anticipate what Mary could do, they can shut her down.
Is Jade and Lada actually hated the most, the ones that have to step up and actually help Schnell countering Mary and actually giving her the right position, like the right, being the right companions for her to get in onto sites and actually give her an easier duel to take against Mary.
What do you think, Anne? How do you think this is going to pan out?
Well, I 100% agree with it, right? If you look at the match between G2 versus BBL Queens, we saw that, for example, Mary, but the entirety of G2, they were so good at shutting down the main character Elkia on the other side. That was also a Jet versus Jet duel, if I do recall correctly. And if you have that turning out to the favor of G2 so many times, it's going to be so difficult if you lose your main duelist to then regather control, regather those positions, and have the same kind of aggression as you would like to have with your duelist. So I think that Acend really needs to be careful where they pick their fights here.
Well, G2 goes, and they are just one map away for yet another grand final. I'm going to throw this over to your casters, Zach and Endai, and see if they think that G2 can do it.
Yeah, well, Yinsu, here's the thing. You ask, you know, maybe you shut down Mary. How can you do that? And I just think that if you could, someone might have done it by now, but it just doesn't seem that realistic to me, Zach.
I agree with you here. Mary is her. Mary, I can't wait to see how she's going to be in like a couple of years, because at this point she's at the peak of her game, and I think it's only uphill for her from here. But, you know, back to this game, I think that one of the points that our wonderful analyst did bring up was that head-to-head between Schnell and Mary, and we talked about this before on Bind. Mary, she's great at hitting those shots, but she has a lot of help and setup from her teammates, and Schnell kind of seems to be missing that same backup here. Some rounds, you do see it coming out of Acend, individual moments of brilliance, but they need to kind of string those together for kind of like a cohesive work to really set Schnell up. And also, the fact is that we talked about this a little bit before we went into the break, but I think that the biggest problem for Schnell so far is that she has not had a chance at all to get that operator online.
Yeah, she has not been able to find the operator, right? And now we're heading into 3 Jet maps back to back to back. So we'll see if she can maybe do something, especially starting over on the defense here. We're going to look to see if she can turbo her economy and get one online for round 4, round 5. Is definitely when I want to see it for her. And actually Acend are setting up a bit of a B trap play. You can see with Jade's Breach playing backside B, Schnell playing close up on that B site, something they've looked for before, but G2 just quickly accelerating off of the dart, pinging out onto HTM, and everyone's abandoned the site for Acend. They're going to try to play a very fast retake with 4 players.
Yeah, they're just happy to try and kind of go in for that play. Shockdar's invested to push Petra off the plant, not doing any real damage to her, but just by a little bit of delay at the very least. Acend, though, they're just happy to regroup here, wait for the spike itself to go down before going in for that retake attempt. Concussion comes through, does manage to hit under Heaven, but I don't think any of the players got onto site in time to capitalize. Amy, though, from Heaven, able to find that first kill. 2-for-2 trade so far. Petra still being a menace on the side here along with Roxy, and it's all gonna come down to Jade here. Finds the first one, but that is going to be a very quick pistol win from G2 as they look to close this out in 3-0 style.
Have they lost a pistol yet? I don't think so. They have been dominant, but this round is a perfect example of what you were saying with how Schnell and the rest of the team work together, or maybe aren't quite as clean as G2, because we actually saw all the utility from Acend on the retake, hit the paranoia, the concuss, everything, but Schnell was so late out of heaven to capitalize off of that. Acend are also playing, I think, 3 players up towards heaven, which is really hard to jump out of because, you know, you're falling for a second and a half before you can actually fight, so it just makes it very hard to play off of your utility and gives G2 a lot of chances to fight back. It was something that I think was a weakness of Acend on their attacking halves, is how, you know, the duelist was working with the rest of the team. And it is worth noting that Schnell and Luteo are the recent additions to this Acend roster, coming in just 2 months ago to this squad. It's amazing that they've been able to make it to minimum 3rd place here in GC, but you see some of the lack of refinement at times that has cost them rounds. And against a G2 that is playing completely on the money today, you cannot afford to leave any gaps open in your attack plan.
And G2, they're just so sharp here. They see 3 players with the utility being enforced towards that A side that they immediately go over towards C. However, that paranoia is going to at least isolate Roxy here, though Petra finding 2 already with the help of that Phantom. Still going to be a couple of rifles dropped if Mimi lets them pick it up. Just retrieve one of them at the very least. So the last 2 players, G2 know exactly where they are. Schnell finds the first one, but Mary immediately there for the refrag, and now it's all down to Jade. Once again, able to at least pick up a weapon. Never mind, doesn't quite manage to do that, but looking to make it as expensive as possible, knows where the other rifle is, picks it up, gets the kill onto Glad.
W.
Yeah,
we take those. Acend, the fact that you remove 2 rifles from play, right? It'll just be the one Vandal that Mary carries over, is a real win for them in this next round, because if you remember how the rounds have played out for G2 throughout this, is that round 3 for them has usually been an actual buy, because they're able to carry so much over. You can see that because even on their rifle players, they were still going light armor the majority of the time. Like, this is still a perfectly comfortable purchase from G2. Only Petra is going to be stuck on the Sheriff, and she's just 1 orb off of the ultimate, which they're probably going to give her the plant. She's got the spike for that in the post. So still a really good spot from G2, but it could have been even better. 6,000 credits almost better if they hadn't been able to get 4 kills as opposed to 2.
Yeah, the pockets aren't going to be as quite deep for that next round. And I like this play again from G2. They expect the early concession from Acend on this A side. So they put down the recon to make sure that long is clear. Acend, they kind of reevaluate, go for some heavy short control instead, where they're going to be kind of stacked up. 3 players on this A side. And now the G2, they've made so much noise towards that A area of the map. They're happy to kind of go on the other side instead, leaving Mimi on the lurk here. Already finding the first. The concussion not quite coming into play, although Schnell still able to find that refrag. Huge work. Amy finds the information as well towards
such a weird round. Look at this.
Yeah.
Like, there's been attention drawn up in mid. Spike is still outside of A lobby, and it's Glance and Mary holding hands down A long, playing this high-low spot. Oh, Mary finds 2 kills, and G2 just give them the round at this point. Petra is able to pick up a rifle. They've still left Roxy outside of B to lurk on through here. Good of Acend to be trying to clear this one out, and Amy finds the kill, which puts them within 1 player for the retake.
Yeah, Mary gonna be that first. Mary and Glance, in fact, have this crossfire. That's gonna be the first point of contact. However, if Lateo does get this paranoia perfectly into place, it might be enough for Amy to find a kill or 2 and break that crossfire. Glance though holding the off angle, finds the first kill, gets the second as well. Amy, just perfection here. Now in a 1v1 scenario. However, the one way from Glance still in play, and Petra off the back of that able to convert. Well, I'm not gonna call this a bonus because it was quite a bit of a heavy purchase, but G2, they get their 3rd round nevertheless, and just beautiful teamwork coming out of them.
Look, it's a swing round for Acend is what that means. Acend, they lose that, they do not have anything going really in round number 4, and it comes after really this kill trades out evenly, but then the shots from Mary to take it up. Glance actually dodged away from the paranoia, but because she actually stepped back into graffiti, it left whoever that was playing Hell was playing a little bit wider out because of the positioning that Glance was in previously. They got a little bit desynced, and Acend maybe had a chance, but Petra ends up clutching on through, and now, wow, just stacking up orbs. G2 continuing to playing for those. Mary, the only one without a rifle, will now have knives, and this C site's completely open.
Yeah, both Jets with access to knives here. Again, a triple push toward from that A side, but Glance playing on top of this box, finding that first kill, takes quite a bit of damage in the process, and it's going to be Acend trying to go on the hunt here, finding a little bit more. Mary with the knives, able to get that first kill. A little bit awkward, but still connects it onto Amy, and now this flank, if it stopped at its tracks, it's going to be everything that's necessary, but Roxy falls. 3 players too much for her to really deal with, and the spike itself will comfortably go down on the C side. The Glance is left with only 1 HP in her pocket. 3 remaining players for Acend, trying to make this retake work. Mary, having walked all the way from C into B, able to catch the timing onto Jade, finds a huge kill there, and whatever remains, it's just going to be so difficult for Acend to really find anything. Just takes 1 knife, and Mary will hit it without too much trouble. Lateo's position known as well off the back of that spray, and in this 1v4...
the stinger down long.
Yeah, it's impossible.
What a fun position to be in. Oh, utility. Yes, it's a whole party. I'm having a great time, says Lateo.
Nope.
No, she's not. She actually just, that was like some kind of weird satanic ritual down in Cubby too. I saw at the end there. I don't know.
Paranoia, shock dart, you know, Mary in your face with blades. Very fun.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, you dodge out 4 knives. Mary's still going to headshot you at the end. It is not a good time. I will say though, for Acend, they've lost every round, but they are starting some conditioning against G2. That's the second round. They've committed 3+ players for a flank, which I think is a really good thing to do early in a half on your defense, just to, especially on these A hits, try to pull more players to play off of sight. It means that if there's 2 people watching that A lobby, that A main, then you can accomplish something. Hold on. Petra's just slamming this ultimate and not quite finding anything.
Does tag a player up though, I think. So a little bit of damage done. Lateo gonna be left with only 45 HP to her name, so not a bad Hunter's Fury. Also, I think that Recon did spot out at least a couple of players on this A side, and it seems this time around Acend, they're kind of gonna be contesting it. So far, we've seen them opting to go in for a kind of retake setup on this A side, but now with G2 converging on it, there's still gonna be 3 players and quite a bit of utility left in their arsenals on this buy round to hold on to the site here.
They're so entrenched, right? Yeah, like you're saying, fighting forward, even though they have the lockdown ready for Amy. It might not even be a position to use it. If these players fall on site without trading much back, they're not going to have that ulti. Mary, this is going to be such an important opener for her, playing around the smoke. HCM is able to shut her down, and actually with the rotate coming on over, options available. 3 players survive for G2. The lockdown will go into play.
Yeah, but I don't know if it's a very good idea to really invest that lockdown at all, because it's a 2v3 retake, and more than that, it's just gonna be so difficult unless they have a lineup for this long to possibly clear out, do a little bit of chip damage in the process. It's gonna be very, very difficult to even touch that diffuse button, because look at the amount of utility that's left in the pocket. Still the paranoia for Glance, a flash for Mimi as well, and almost no HP left for Amy to contend with. Does tap the spike, get that first nanoswarm out of play, and Amy tries to go down on a little bit of adventure towards long. Schnell trying to stick half the spike through, will be able to get it and dash out, but now G2, they're gonna be on the prowl here, on the hunt. You can't quite pull off a ninja, and the relurk from short, Roxy finds that final kill as G2 get to 5.
And worse than anything, Zach, that was the Schnell op round. Schnell traded out her op for a rifle, once she got onto site, and just lost it completely. It was a killjoy, they used the operator. They're just going absolutely broke. Yeah, it's a tough call to make there, because on one hand, even though you're down in numbers, the lockdown means that you are pushing everyone off site, so you don't have to worry about the crossfires or anything like that, but Amy had to find at least 1 to give Schnell a chance while she was going for the half stick. She falls and it gets a little bit cooked. Now, Acend do have a couple of ultis here, and I'll be honest, if I was in their spot, I might call for a buy here. It's tough, but I don't know. I feel like the rounds are just slipping further and further away from them. They have a couple of big ultimates. So if anything, I would put 3 rifles that they can buy on the players that don't have the ults, especially on Schnell, put her in a position to go find a fight early on, and then maybe look to really disrupt on a fast retake with the Breach ult and the Sov ult. The more likely call is that they do just end up going for a save, but I don't know. I feel like you're already not winning the rifle rounds. You need to try with just about anything you've got here as Acend, and what this will mean is it would be another round where they just don't use their ultimates, and it allows G2 to get theirs online, because they're just one off of the Rolling Thunder and the lockdown themselves.
Oh, nasty shot from Petra to open things out. I think that was the Guardian take it off, Bulldog take it offline in just a couple of seconds there. And G2, they find a very easy opener. Still gonna be multiple players towards his B side here. Jade with the stinger, taking down Petra, takes a little bit of damage in the process, and Mimi with the wallbang is able to get that trade. So still numbers advantage gonna be in favor of G2 as they look to advance towards his B side here. HGM tries to go for the swing, maybe catching somebody off guard, but doesn't find anything as Glance shuts her down. 2 players remaining now for Acend, only Sheriffs in hand, and they have a lot of work to do here if they want to find anything at all.
Last player standing.
Oh boy. Roxy gets another one, and now as the rounds start stacking up, if my math is right, this is map 3. Acend have won 8 rounds over the course of this series. G2 are completely on form. The concuss to come through, the swings as well. I want to reinforce this idea that this is a G2 that is no longer playing fast and loose. This is a G2 put in an elimination position, and they are throwing everything they have at Acend. Acend have looked strong. They are top 3 for a reason here in EMEA. But this is a G2 that is not leaving anything up for question. Now they've got Rolling Thunder and the lockdown, which maybe they just end up trading for HTM's ultimate on the opposite side. But wow, Acend are getting rolled. Chanel is the operator. I'll give her that to maybe fight back, but G2 have dodged her somehow.
Yeah, this round, it's kind of do or die for the side of Acend. They might be able to jump back into this later on, but that's going to be a little bit wallbang or leg shot. Yeah, Petra taking quite a bit of damage. No Sky or Sage to be able to get her back to full HP, but nevertheless, Petra, she can just afford to play from the back, try to go for those trades here if necessary. And again, just the conditioning that you talked about, right? G2, they might be expecting this push coming out of A if they're not careful. Multiple players, in fact, stacking up towards Garage here, and Acend on the play. Oh wow, that's a Rolling Thunder and a half here off the back of multiple ultimates. It's just going to be slaughter central as Acend. They find 3 kills on the round very quickly. Petra.
Hold on, look at Mary. Look at Mary.
Yeah,
no one's ready for her creeping out of B. She was played all the way up in Cubby.
Petra gave her the information as well that multiple players are towards spawn, and Mary, off the back of that, able to find the first kill. Awareness once again. Petra, despite the low HP, second kill coming through, and they still have control of the spike. So yeah, 2v3 scenario. Mary's still in very decent fighting shape, I gotta say, and the A side has been basically abandoned. Chanel running over, but not quite able. I don't think that she'll find the timing on the operator.
She'll have a peek with it for sure, but the shot isn't quite there. Mary on 79 health. Shock darts to try and poke away. Now, this is where Acend are splitting up just a little bit. 2 players now working towards the flank. And it's Chanel with an operator. She has to play so slow from spawn, hoping that Mary peeks into her. G2 really no utility to fight back. And as long as they don't step into that operator crosshair, they have a good shot at turning around and dealing with these flankers. Peeking in, Mary doesn't care. It's 2-on-2 now.
Yeah, the timing perfect for Mary there. However, I think they know perhaps that it's going to be a crossfire towards the CD angle. Mary goes down, huge kill there, and now it's all down to Petra. Does have some shock darts to work with, goes for the swing to try and isolate the fight, but the HP is just not there as Amy connects that very clean headshot. Acend, they get the round, finally one on the board, and that's going to be the 9th round they won over the course of the series. But looking back at this play, right, they push through A. Jade spots quite a few players towards mid, puts down the Rolling Thunder, puts down the Hunter's Fury. They put everything they have into the round, and they make it work. That's the important part, because we've seen this out of Acend before. They've used 3 ultimates, and G2 still say, hey, the round is ours. But this time around, at least that proactiveness that they showed, it really pays off for them.
It's some convenient editing there. We didn't need to see the first shots from Jade. The shots that came after the ultimate are the ones that mattered there. Still, it's the read from Acend, right? Because it's after G2 showed the early presence A lobby. The fact that there wasn't that second step of presence, Acend are like, hold on, we can actually creep forward. Oh, no one's here. We can just continue going. And we're able to find a really nice punish. Now G2 again looking to actually split much quicker into C. Not going to get caught outside of that early this time around with the ultimate to support. I don't believe Lateu was caught in backside, but G2, it doesn't even matter on the hit or coming on through. The swing out from Amy is perfect. 2 kills. Lateu still alive backside as well. Maybe a little bit much there as now the players fall one by one. And it's just ATM alive.
1v3. That round just fell apart for Acend. As you see, a little bit of over-aggression coming out of the Killjoy there. Now it's all down to HTM. Glance that first contact that she doesn't even clear. Roxy, though, will be the one to get the kill. A 3K for her. And G2, they say you can win a round, but it's not going to really change the bigger picture for us as they just steamroll their way onto site. And I feel like you mentioned, it was a little bit of overcooking coming through for Acend, because Amy got 2 kills and she could have just tried to play for the crossfire with her Omen on the backside, but instead she gets so greedy.
She seeks out the next fight front site where Lateo can't swing and help her out. See, there's that smoke in the middle of sight, so as soon as she presses W key there, Amy's on her own, and to Amy's credit, she has done so much on her own for Acend throughout, not just this series, but throughout their entire run here. Amy has been absolutely stellar. We just saw her use her ultimate a couple of rounds ago. She's got it back again, but Acend are playing 4 aggressively down towards long, and they know Amy is stuck up in that cubby by herself. It's a good shot coming out from Lateo, and actually decent trades, all things considered, but now the util flood should be coming down. HTM, no health really whatsoever, and it'll be down all to Amy once again, and she's actually got a rifle this time. And they're holding for it. They're ready for her on the flank.
Oh no.
That is such a good read, because Acend on every single light buy round that they've tried something aggressive, and if there's no one there, they turn it into a flank. And this one, even though the aggression is fought here, they're like, okay, where's the Killjoy gonna be? She's gonna be isolated. She's probably committing on the flank. Buy some time, waiting for that, and just shut it down instantly.
That's the problem when all of your kills happen in the first 20 seconds of the round. There's just so much round left that G2 can afford to really wait for these plays. They expect the flanks from Acend now. It's happening in almost every single round, and they're happy to just kind of hold on and yeah, we have a minute left on the clock. All good. Let's wait it out here. Great start from Acend, but not quite able to capitalize on it.
What?
Yeah, it's a fast push.
Schnell just dashed out of garage doors. What is that? Meanwhile, this concuss. No! Amy can't quite find it. She does managed to take the 2 kills down, and now with her embedded down in oh no, it's all falling apart. I was gonna say with her in sewers, that should be everything, but Petra finds the kill. Petra finds another kill.
Yeah,
Acend have been in numbers advantage situations so many times, but G2 by some miracle have been able to swing it back around every time it happens.
I think at the end of the day, it just comes down to G2 being better at shoot gun, pew pew, headshot at I think over the course of this entire tournament, their head-to-head engagements are probably some of the highest win rates, I gotta say. And now it's all down to HTM. Does find that first player. Not expecting the second, though. Mary just tucked away into the corner. Happy to find that late trade for her teammate. And G2, they find 9. But, you know, back to the way that G2 are playing this, we saw it on Split as well. They just have these pristine reads here. And despite Amy being able to get these 2 kills in the early round here, having the lockdown to boot, it seems like Petra had the expectation of that lockdown, goes down just as it's being set down, finds that kill, and just cleans house towards that flank as well coming in. The timing for Acend, the players on site have to stay alive long enough for that flank to find any value, and they're just not able to do it.
Acend going for 2 hero rifles on Amy and HTM. The knives as well as, again, this dash out of garage doors. I can't say I love it, but hey, Lateo's been able to find 1 kill. HTM capitalizes off the concuss too. Hold on, Acend might have been able to cook something up here.
Yeah, really being able to find 2 kills towards long, and more than that, the discipline to fall back. Yeah, fall back this time around, huge work, but like you mentioned, Jade having pushed up towards mid already. If Glance decides to jump down, go for a little bit of a B play, lurk play, it's gotta be immediately shut down unless she checks her corner. 3 players left for G2. They still have 2 ultimates to work with, the From the Shadows for Glance, as well as the lockdown for Roxy, if they want to really push forward control of a site here. And again, Lateo looking to get a little bit aggressive towards this long area. Tucked away into the cubby. 1 Aftershock will at least deal with that part of it, but the information is there for Acend now. They know that G2 is pushing down long. They're still gonna cross their T's and dot their I's. Does quite a bit of damage, and now the Hunter's Fury from HTM to boot, trying to catch one of these players. Not quite doing enough damage though. Does tag up Roxy to half HP, so that's there at least. And look at the time, they've just bought so much of it.
Yeah, Glance is super low too, down to 2 health off of the Stinger play, so this is gonna come apart for G2 very quickly, you'd assume. Good paranoia to enter them into the site, but Amy from backside was untouched. Up and down, HTM gets a shot kill as well. Acend have 2. 1 was not all they get. 2 have been acquired, but they have to get 11 more before G2 get 4 more, or this series is over and G2 are going to the final.
Spike down.
Thank you for breaking down the map for me, because
That's numbers.
I'm actually not that greatest at it, but yeah, look at this. This push from long was practically inspired, and the utility was there to back it up as well. It just seemed like G2, they weren't ready for it. The conditioning that you brought up, that they're so used to Acend pushing the issue on A that they just weren't ready for that C play, and they're just caught completely unaware by it. They're still gonna have the economy, of course, in spades to buy up for this round, but Acend, they're gonna be having quite a bit in the bag too, because they win that round where they had a very half buy coming in.
Acend, Schnell, D peaks at the worst possible time. Maybe a chance to take a fight there, but now G2 have actually embedded Petra up towards Cubby, just sort of holding, waiting for there to be another fight. They're going to contact on through here. Spacing is not great. Schnell is able to swing through here. She can isolate fights. No, she D peaks a little bit early while Mary finds a pick in mid. And now if she re-swings back into these long players, the utility is going to be here. The players are going to be here. The moment was missed, and G2 have C.
Oh, but again, Petra getting a little bit too over-aggressive here. Schnell there for the punish. Mary, though, through Garage here. The awareness is going to be there from Acend. They're able to convert the kill as well. Huge factor there. And the spike itself is going to be dropped as well on C side. It is going to be retrieved and taken back to the A side, where G2 note that they probably will be able to get a free plant, but it's going to be a 2v4 scenario. No Rolling Thunder available, though. If Mimi gets that spike down, that might be a factor in letting G2 play a little bit aggressively. In this 2v4 scenario, they're going to have to get up close and personal to kind of make up for this numbers disadvantage, and they've succeeded at it so far.
There will be a double flank coming online.
Oh, no.
Glance with the TP up into heaven. Loses her legs on the way down. It's going to be about Jade and Schnell on this flank. Mimi, the only player to watch it around the corner, and she falls. Now it's all left to Glance. Two players fall on both sides of the map, but Glance, if she can stall out for some of this utility. The players are low around the corner. Jade finds a 3K on the round, and Acend have a third. Acend are not done just yet.
It's better than last map, and they got it in the first half to boot. All they have to really do is, when they switch over to attack, find the same kind of precision and the kind of damage that G2 were able to do. And a lot of that weight is going to rest on the shoulders of Schnell and Amy. A lot of the games where Acend, they perform well, like their series against K-Corp or Guild, they were able to put up the numbers by themselves. And I think that we're going to have to see these players do a lot of heavy lifting. Amy already up there with 12 and 10, keeping up with most of the G2 players, but rest of the Acend, they're going to have to perk up a little bit. And a little bit of a fun fact, that both of these teams, they played Guild, but if you look at the comparison, the way they won G2, I think they won 13-5, but Acend, they had a much rougher job of it. They were 13-10, and G2 at that point, they weren't playing nearly as clean as they are now.
I'll give you another bad stat for Acend. They have won 1 out of 5 pistols this series. The sole pistol they won, they lost the conversion in round number 2. They're going to need this one, and they're going to need it big time. Default smoke over towards A long to threaten some kind of a lurk up, either down short or up into the cubby down on long. Although Roxy is the one set up here, so she's going to have perfect information with the turret and the alarm bot set up. That's exactly where Acend are walking. They don't have any sort of option to late lurk up through mid, so it'll be actually pretty difficult for them to commit anywhere other than A. The utility has to come in, and it has to be Schnell finding these hits, finding the opening frags. Roxy is able to dodge away, even with the tag coming in from that dart. But it means it should be a fairly simple plant for Acend. G2 playing all 5 players through CT on this retake.
Yeah, it's gonna make things much more difficult. There's no recon dart available either, because Petra used it in the early round, and Acend's push was timed so that they don't really have that extra information. Now though, it's gonna be the stun paranoia combination coming through. Schnell, like you mentioned, that first point of contact, you gotta check your corners. They don't do it, and Schnell in the corner, able to find only one before finally being shut down. Shots being missed on every single player here, and it's gonna come down to a 1v2 scenario. Jade having to do it all, knows the position of both the players, does so much damage to Mary, lets her cross over, and despite Mary being at 2 HP, it's still going to be G2 who pull across that pistol. A round that Acend desperately needed to win and do not manage to do so.
I just don't know how it happens. They've got the spot in the corner there, only able to find the one kill when G2 failed to clear the corner. Schnell has been in this position so many times this series, but I think she freaks out a bit when her pistol shot doesn't one-shot headshot. There was light armor on that target. She was already switching over to the other one. I think maybe the third time where she's been looking at the back of 2 players on G2's heads and has not been able to find more than just the one kill. Then the 3 players jumping out of heaven, somehow with the utility overload they were sending onto the site. Trade positive. And it slips away from Acend. Acend, they get the plant. They're going to force. They have to win this round. But actually, Amy forgot to force. She bought nothing here, just light armor. Maybe it's not a forget, and she just wants to get tossed a rifle backwards, but that's low percentage. And G2 actually fully bought into this one. Popping through the smoke is just a 1-for-1 trade, and there's still Mimi backside.
Yeah, the flash gotta be perfectly timed. Not enough to let her get the kill. In fact, gotta be caught in the open as Amy doesn't need a gun. Amy just needs a classic to do the kind of damage that she does and is able to retrieve that Spectre to boot. So the spike itself, it goes down. Position being held by Acend, a little bit awkward here, though they still do have some crossfire setups coming through. Schnell, in fact, gotta be playing close to the smoke, able to do quite a bit of damage.
No
before
bullets!
Glance finds 2 kills, runs out of bullets like you mentioned, and now numbers advantage neutralized. Glance in a 1v2 scenario does have full HP, but this is gonna be a little
No bullets! Amy has no bullets! Are you
karma.
kidding me?
This is karma for split, you know, when G2 ran out of bullets, so it's just gonna be like, oh, I didn't have bullets this time. And
Twice in one round!
Unlucky.
Acend had that! They did everything they needed!
So
but they
lucky.
don't have enough in the tank! How do G2 win that? And credit to G2, because after they lost a round 2 conversion back on split to the force buy of Acend, this time they're not FPX buying, they're buying SMG's Bulldogs on every single player, but Plateu runs out, and then Amy also didn't find a chance to reload. It's a heartbreaker. 2 rounds in a row have slipped away from Acend.
They're forcing again. We saw this before. I know,
it's just back to the slots again and again and again. Acend can't give up now. They have to keep trying until this map is over.
Yeah, I mean, we saw this on Bind, though. The last time it was also a 10 to have, and it was the same result. They end up forcing every round, not able to get a full buy-in even one time, though. This time, at least, Amy, because she didn't force in on that rifle, will be able to have one of her own. 3 players now towards mid. Info garnered early on by Mary, and Glance still in the corner, tucked away.
Petra's walked all the way up. See, long as she finds Plateu. Now, these Acend players have to worry about long as they come out from a garage. They're concussed. Mimi catches 4 players on the concussed. They're trapped. They're getting wrapped around from every possible direction. Glance lines them all up for 2 kills. Another around the quarry. Mary is 1 map, 1 round away from taking G2 back to the finals.
1 round. That's all that stands between them, and they really want some revenge on BBL, it seems like, because they are steamrolling through this map. It's even more, or steamrolling through the entire day, let's be honest. G2 have looked flawless today so far, and they definitely look much, much cleaner than when they played against BBL on this particular map. Sure, they ended up winning it out in the end, but still, they've really managed to refine some of those stats, and of course, they're just playing so aggressively. They use that utility for early information, and off the back of that, they're just happy to take even more space up, and Acend, they just have no answer to it at all.
Yeah, G2, 4 players quickly trying to pinch back into A, so you see the pivot from Acend, abandoning everyone. Amy is left to watch the flank. She has a turret to control mid and window, and then it's her on this flank watch. Can she be the hero that Acend need her to be again? The plant will go in. Jade has the rolling thunder for the post plant, a great setup for them, and Amy comes around the corner. She can't find the opening pick. There's 3 players now ready to hunt her down.
They know exactly where she is as well, and she's going to be surrounded on every single side. Rolling Thunder going to be invested to buy a little bit more time on the site, but it's not really going to really affect anybody apart from Roxy, who still finds 2 despite being hit by the concussion. It's down to the last 2 players on site here. HTM towards this spawn will be looking for a little bit more, not able to find anything, and Lateu having to step up huge here, finds that first, but Glance will deny anything more. G2, they're going to be moving on 3-0 to that grand finals and their rematch against BBL. What a series out of them.
G2 are going back to the finals. Once again, a 3-0 performance, giving up nothing. 5 rounds on Bind, 2 rounds on Split, and then dominance once again on Haven. Combined across 3 maps, Acend wouldn't have won a single map, couldn't even get to 13 with how clutch G2 were, how dominant they were. Every fight they're taking, it seemed, based on some utility to set it up. Perfection out of them over and over again. And well, G2 this year are looking to defend their Game Changers World Championship. Roxy on this team is going back to a final to defend her EMEA title. But it'll be against a BBL squad that have taken down G2 in 2 consecutive best of 3s. But I'll be honest, Zach, this is not the G2 that lost twice to BBL. This is the G2 that won it all last year.
Yeah, said, exactly. This is a G2 that came back from being 2 maps down to become Game Changers champions, and they are looking to be in peak form as this tournament goes on and on. And especially Roxy, you know, she's been a walking highlight reel today, especially in splits. But I think over the course of the tournament, she's finally being able to find that synergy with her team. And I think that what makes G2 G2 and the champions that they are is that every single player on their roster, including the new one that they've cooked up with Roxy, it's that they're able to just win out these duels so many times. Like Lance, for example, she's been kind of quiet on that scoreboard front over the course of this tournament, but when it comes down to the clutch moments, it is gonna be Glance with a little bit of help from an awkward reload situation, finding those kills, the 4K.
Wins 2 1 versus 2s back to back, and then is a huge factor in this pinch that took G2 up to map and series point. And I'll be honest, G2, there's never been a doubt that, you know, they're just some of the best players in the server in GC. But on top of that, their utility today, especially for Mimi, her split was a thing of beauty. The way she floated on the breach with concusses from new positions round to round to round. Here again, was doing so much. That round where they collapsed everyone and trapped them inside garage. She had a concuss that hit 4 players that trapped them there. They were going to have C site. Acend was going to make it out, but it was her utility over and over and over that set up Mimi to take all those gorgeous fights and just stopped Acend dead in their tracks over and over again.
Yeah, I think that Acend, credits to them for, you know, 2 months in with their new players. They managed to make it to 3rd, but they have a little bit of a climb to do when it comes to, I think, at least mechanically keeping up with the likes of BBL and G2. But G2, you know, they've had a little bit of a rough time in this tournament. Like you mentioned, 2 consecutive losses to BBL, but now they have a fight on their hands tomorrow. They have a chance to take back, find revenge, get their crown, and keep it for EMEA Series 1. And that's exactly what they aim to do, because the G2 that we saw today, if they play like that against BBL tomorrow, I think they're going to do it.
Oh, it is going to be such an incredible matchup tomorrow. I am beyond excited to see that one unfold. Zach, great job today. It was fun casting with you. But for now, we're going to have to say goodbye and toss it over to the Analyst S to break down that series, which was a quick one, wasn't it?
Thank you very much, Enda and Zach. Enda, you did a great job as well. I want to give you that kudos. I'll see you tomorrow. Welcome back, Anne and Kukuka. Who knew that G2 are good at best of 5s and can make grand finals? I love how if they don't win every match dominantly, Kukuka, it's seen as if they're having a bad time.
I mean, in some scenarios, yeah, I would say so. But today, you said at the beginning of the day, they love proving you wrong, and they did. The face that I saw, especially from Roxy today, it looked much more cohesive. And I think it has to do maybe with the bootcamp that they are in together and actually bonding in real life and taking it to the next step.
Yeah, it does help so much being on bootcamp, being with each other IRL, being able to look at each other's screens. For example, when you're setting up with your initiators for an execute, Petra, to highlight the MVP of this game, she had a brilliant start of this map, but not just this map. She had a great start of every single map. She easily found herself after a few rounds going 7-1, going 8-1, and also for this game. In round 3, she had that clutch, another clutch from Glance later on into the game in round 14 as well. So despite G2 sometimes being with a man deficit, they have these solo players that can really show up and really turn around into their favor.
I will also say, though, I mean, this sets the grand finals up in a very exciting fashion. You know, G2 back to their best. But Kukuka, do you feel like that they needed to even play at their best today? Because I honestly felt like it was more of maybe a bad day at the office for Acend as well.
It has to do with confidence as well, managing to get into the server, into a best of 5. You know that it's going to be a long day. You know that you have had that peak performance, that last year you were the champions of the year. And I want to think that it's also like, after going through that loss, knowing that you have to come back stronger, it also matters what happens today mentally, because right now they must be just celebrating.
Yeah, I mean, the G2, they're used to winning. We're used to seeing them win as well. But for Acend, you know, even though the last 2 maps probably wasn't what we expected, there were some pretty nice things that we saw. It was not all bad. We saw some glimmers of what they can do. If we take a look at this round, honestly, this was a beautiful use of ultis and even the 2v2 to finish it off as well. And if they could play like this every round, I honestly think they would have. They could have easily taken this to even map 4 or 5.
Yeah, I mean, it even comes down to the changes that Jay talked talked about, right? They have this new coach that helps them to talk about or to work as a team more together. And here is where you actually see them re-peeking one another. You see them playing out situations together. And that is something that they will need to force out, you know, map control for G2. If they start playing aggressive, you'll have to work together. You have to be together from Garage, for example, onto the players of G2 to make sure that you can refrag each other. Make sure that you don't lose your duelist, for example, in important gunfights, and you can use your utility later into the round as well.
It worries me to a certain extent that we are seeing the same adaptation that we saw on Bind here on this map, being like, okay, they're being too aggressive onto us. The entries that they're doing, we're playing from side. We cannot do anything about that. Let's try and be aggressive. They managed to get this round, but the capability the G2 has to adapting into these things is just bigger.
Well, you guys, thank you very much for the analysis. I'm going to let you have a quick breather and bring in Carcass, the head coach of G2, for a quick interview. Hi, welcome, Carcass. It's been a while since we had a chat, but it's nice to get you back here again for an interview. First of all, I want to say you didn't have to call a single timeout today in a best of 5, so easy day?
I mean, not gonna lie, it was pretty easy. Like, I mean, they used timeouts, right? So like, I also have a chance to talk. So I just used their timeouts and like didn't give them a chance to time out more.
Of course, you were coming into this game from a loss, you know, maybe one that you also didn't expect to lose. But did you expect today to go so dominantly? What was the preparation like for this match?
I mean, we had 3 days of scrims. We didn't, like, the plan was that we win versus against BBL. We go 1 day off, but since we lost, we need to work harder, right? So we spent all those 3 days to prep for actually like both matches, not gonna lie. So I didn't expect that to be like that easy, I would say. Even though like still props to them, like they reached and they improved a lot comparing to the last year. But yeah, we were better at this point, and we knew that we're gonna win though. Like we really wanted it to be a 3-0, so it's less, how to say, less preparation BBL has on us, because we also did some changes on other maps we didn't play, maybe. And yeah, we're just ready for the finals, I guess.
Speaking of that, of course, going into tomorrow, BBL will have both map bans. How ready are you for Fracture? Are we going to see that, you think?
I mean, we're ready. Like those 3 days, right? So like we had to spend them wisely, right? So like we're expecting them to ban Fracture. If they're not, like we're going to play it. We also like prepped for it. Like it doesn't really matter what maps we're going to play. Like their playstyle doesn't differ from map to like from one map to another, and even though like they didn't show maybe everything, but I mean we know what to expect. So like I'm feeling confidence in this match. Like I think we stepped up big time in comparison what like how we played versus them in the last match, and as I said, like we did some tweaks.
Why do you think that you guys were in this position in the first place, not knocked into the lower bracket? What was it that BBL did that you felt like maybe they exploited your weaknesses?
I mean, they're a really good team. Like they have super cracked individuals, and I'm really impressed how they improved once again from the last season. Like they're probably like the most improved team because they only had 2 changes, if I'm not mistaken, right? And yeah, like I didn't expect them to be that good. I mean, we scrimmed during the season, like during the off season, like versus them few scrims, even though we don't really scrim game changer teams. But it happened that we scrimmed them, and we were impressed already. And we knew that, okay, they're gonna go far in this event. And yeah, but I mean, they're playing S5 a lot, and like everyone who watched at least one of their games, they're just sticking as a group. And if you're not gonna play as a team versus them, you're gonna lose. So yeah, that's our mindset, you know, like just you can have a rough aim day, but like team atmosphere and how you trade each other is like super important versus them. So like we really try to focus on this. And even today, like we had some whiffs from some of the players, and but it didn't like it wasn't that bad, right? Like because we traded each other. So like that's also the mindset for tomorrow.
I want to talk about that trading, actually, because I felt like Petra was just on another level, bailing everyone out in every situation she could have had and clutching as well. You and Giuliano were kind of that duo that you worked together, coach and IGL, for such a long time. So talk me about this new dynamic, how similar or different it is for you two now.
I mean, Pate is like really good IGL. Honestly, like I thought that it's gonna be like a harder transition, but she's doing so good, and I'm really happy like that. Like we decided to have her as IGL, and to be honest, when we did like tryouts and change of Giuliano, we didn't even search for IGL because like already like she had the mentality that yeah, I'm gonna do it. Yeah, like I know that I'm good at it, and it really worked out. And working with her is easy, and I probably would say like even easier. But like vibes are really good, and I always like had a good relationship with Pate. So yeah, we're just working together all through. Like in general, like in our team, the communication and transparency is like prior number one, I would say. So whenever we have like some difficulties or like something is not going wrong, we're super open for like both sides feedback. So yeah, it just works.
Is it because your IGL doesn't nag you about playing Yoru and Reina anymore? Is that why?
We're going for more chill comps right now, but maybe maybe something we're gonna pull out. Maybe.
I mean, I feel like Mary's just doing some crazy stuff right now. Maybe you let her off the leash a little bit, give her a Neon, a Phoenix, or something like that.
I mean,
yeah?
we are already giving her a lot of space with Jet and Raze, right? So yeah, I don't know. Like maybe you'll see. Like I'm not gonna say all the things like in this interview because BBL is listening. I know that.
I respect that. I respect that. And I do want to say also, lastly, you guys are the reigning world champions, but you're not the reigning VCT champions in EMEA. So you do have a chance to take that throne back tomorrow. How hungry are you to be able to do this? Because I think even losing to Guild, I know a lot of you, that's still on the back of your mind that you couldn't do all of the #1 spot from last year.
I mean, obviously we want to win, right? Like losing sucks. We experienced it versus BBL in playoffs. That's why we dropped. So yeah, we don't want to have the same feeling ever again. So we're gonna do our best and all we can to take the trophy back home.
Well, thank you very much. Anne and Kukuka, you guys got any questions for Karkas before I let him go?
I mean, I was going to ask about the IGO situation. I think that you covered mostly everything, so.
Nice. Thanks.
Thank you.
We'll do a love heart for you, Karkas.
She's good. She's good.
We'll do the trademark Karkas love hearts. Yeah. Thank you so much, Karkas, for joining us. And good luck tomorrow.
Thank you, guys. See you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Honestly, nothing is scarier than hearing someone's coach go, after losing our IGL and a super important duelist player, we feel fine. In fact, in some aspects, we feel even better. So I think, Kukuka, they might be proving you wrong tomorrow.
Oh, I love that. I think that the thing that surprised me the most is that they have a super healthy relationship. He's like, okay, whenever we have a problem, we're very open to just talking about it, and receiving feedback from both sides. Let me tell you that there are many players out there that do not take that as good as you think they would. And this actually generates a lot of tensions and a lot of, how is it called? It's like accountability, but like for feelings, you keep that all within yourself and at some point it explodes. What's it called? Emotional accounting. Emotional accounting is called.
I don't even know what that is. Anne, any idea?
No clue. No. Sometimes the fact that I'm not native English just leaves me alone in these situations.
To be fair, I could not tell. I even thought you were from England.
Emotional accounting. It's what it's called. You guys Google it. Don't do it. It's when you keep it on to yourself. Someone asks you, "Are you okay?" And you're like, "Yeah," and you're thinking about something that they did wrong, and you don't express it, and you save it for yourself. That you're accounting for. So. It's called, you need to be transparent and open to resolve that.
Okay.
I know the name for it in Dutch exactly, but in English...
I trust you, Bae. I trust you. Speaking of emotional accounting, here is a tweet I believe we have from G2 a little bit earlier where I think they managed to accurately and predict what they were going to do today.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I hope they did the first 2 steps indeed and they stomped Acend again, as they mentioned, you know, go ahead. I love how they mentioned it was going to be a chill day ahead. And, you know, obviously not to discredit Acend, but considering the map score, it looked like G2 had an easy day. But if you put that into prospect for tomorrow, I do hope they don't go into the same kind of mindset into the match against BBL, who now are maybe G2's arch nemesis as they have lost against him before. I like that their coach mentioned how they're ready for everything, how they're ready for even a fracture if it comes out, you know, knowing that G2 don't really play that map. But it will require a bit of a different mindset tomorrow, I think.
I'm just saying, we know the G2 goes in are known for their celebrations. So if, which I know they're listening, if they are to win tomorrow and get back that throne, I hope that there's something ready.
But can they do that to BBL? Do they dare? Do they dare, Cougar?
I think that if they prep for that, if they prep for the celebration, they will come in with the mindset of, okay, we have to win this because this is going to be big. We have to do it, you know?
I honestly, if they do that, props to them, because I will be scared about the Turkish community right now. After BBL getting eliminated yesterday, I think every single one of them is going to be watching the grand final tomorrow, rooting for their team, and you don't want to be BMing the Turkish community. Not a good idea. No, that's not a good idea. Not with a very strong fan base behind you. You'd rather respect it, I think, yeah. But then that would be a G2 thing to do, right? Because they don't care. They'll do it.
They have to. It's so on brand. It's so on brand.
It is. We will be seeing G2 again tomorrow, but unfortunately, we have to say goodbye to Acend for this split. But the good news is, if we take a look at the points graphic for how teams can eventually qualify for Brazil at the end of the year, Acend finishing 3rd here, meaning that they grab 20 points. That is 5 over the next opponent, and then another 5 over the one after that as well. That could really, Cougar, at the end of the year, make a massive difference if they can keep this up.
Exactly, exactly. They don't need that to be the winners of every single series if that is to happen. I think that we're sending 2 teams, right? So I think that it sets a good base, and it also mentally it should help you. I think that with some more time, I think the second split is over in July. I think that is enough for them to come back even stronger, and maybe, you know, next time get in second.
It would be really good to secure some points indeed, because if the competition ends up getting fiercer, if there are teams coming from the contenders that will take away those top positions, you have those points you can back onto, and you have a bit of a less stressful feeling going into Split 2 or Stage 2 and Stage 3.
Yeah, but also let's not forget, Acend, this is the first time they've reached this far. And previously, when teams have had a taste of what it could be like, I think it's driven them to do better and better as well. So I have no doubt we're going to be seeing them in the next split. In fact, I think that is about it for us for today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Anne and Cougar, of course, Ender and Zach as well. And to all of you guys at home for watching, we're going to be back tomorrow with a grand finals here at VCT EMEA for Game Changers. Make sure you come back and join us for G2 versus BBL, and we'll see you then.